Hi, I'm Arthur Moats, and I'm here to talk to you about my book, The Moats Theory of Life, and the amazing holiday deal we have going on right now. If you purchase a hardback book, you will receive a paperback copy half off as part of our holiday bundle. This book makes for a great gift for yourself or others and will leave you feeling inspired and impactful. So go to moatstheory.com right now and get your copy so you can start living a more fulfilled life. What's up? What's up? It's the Arthur Moats Experience with Deke. I'm Arthur Moats, and that's my main man, Deke. And let me get the pleasantries out the way, because this episode is brought to you by DRAFTKINGS Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Deke, not only is it safe, but it is secure and reliable. And for all those first-time users out there, if you use the promo code MOATS, you will receive up to $1,000 in deposit bonus money. So stop wasting time. Download the app, use the promo code, and get an opportunity to make a little money. All right, Deke, I'm sad.
I had to take a couple shots before recording this podcast.
I'm sad. I took my vitamins. I said I got to relax and woosah, but I'm very much sad. But I will say this on a light note. Shout out, I like how you look on your shirt, man. You know, whenever, the situation isn't the best, whenever the adversity is piled on high and it seems like the world is against us, whenever we feel like we are in the valley and not on the mountaintop, laughter is always the key. And I will say this, seeing your face with the beard and then seeing you on these Arthur Moats Experience with Deke podcast shirts shaved, wow, we've come a long way, man.
I have both my eyebrows in that one, too.
I know, man. I'm glad we took these pictures when we did, man. This is, yeah. But for everybody that can see, the shirts are officially in. We have them now. They're available on right on every YouTube video. You'll see it right under there. It's a little section, has the little hoodies, t-shirts, coffee mugs, men and women sizes. Remember, when you make your purchase, a portion of the proceeds will be going to the local food bank here in Pittsburgh, man. Always want to help out and make a difference. So support your favorite podcast along with making a difference in the community. So that to me is a positive. That's a big positive because you do look good right there, man.
Thanks, man.
You do look real good. And you look kind of buff too now that I'm seeing, like, geez, you been working out?
I haven't, dude.
Is it bulking season?
No.
I'm slimming and you're getting thicker. I like it.
Well, you asked me the shirt size. And I said, at this point, honestly, probably an XL. I've crossed over. But 2021, I'm sorry. This is going to be, it's going to be a skinny version of Deke. I'm going to lean out. I'm going to get cut, all that stuff. And so far, it's just been a disaster. That hasn't happened.
Well, you've had some traumatic experiences taking place in your life, man.
I'm eating chicken parm sandwiches. Yeah. I'm eating McDonald's. Like, it's just not good.
Comfort food. That's what they call that. Comfort food.
I'll get there at some point. That's my goal. So actually, you guys could call me out if you see me in the spring and I even look bigger than what I am right now. I'm trying to lean out. That's kind of the goal. But yeah, so this is a large. Maybe that's why it's fitting a little bit. I haven't worked out, man. Though. I haven't worked out at all.
It looked like you hit a set of push-ups when you walked in. I'm liking it, man.
No, not at all. Not at all. I wish I could say that. Man. I wish I could.
See right there, I feel so much better right now. Just that little bit of hearing you talk about your buffness and how it's just clearly just natural. You don't even have to work out for these things. Now I'm a little envious of you because I have to work out all the time. And I still don't look as buff as you.
Come on, bro.
It hurts my heart, man. It hurts my heart. I don't want to be as buff like Deke. That's it.
Come on, bro.
That's all I want to do.
Stop. Man.
I wish I could be you at times, man. There are times I wish I could be you.
No.
And then there's times I'm like, I probably don't want to be Deke right now. Deke might be going through it. And last night, my friend, there was a time last night I really was concerned for you.
You were concerned for me this morning, too.
I was. All right, full transparency. And everybody was on the watch party. They know this, right? So during the watch party, and shout out to everybody that tuned into that, the performance was going how it was going. Obviously, it was at times it was very bad, but then obviously it got better, especially talking about for 7. But people started to ask, like, man, is Deke going to be okay? Where is Deke at? And I got to thinking, I said, yo, I haven't heard from Deke. And then I text you.
I turned my phone off.
I text you. I didn't hear anything. I go to sleep. I'm like, yo, it's 1 a.m. I even stayed up late. I said, yo, I'm going to stay up to like 2:30. Maybe I'm going to hear just something from, okay, I got you. I'm like, yo, where is Deke? So then I'm like,
because you sent me the recording.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, I'm not hearing anything. Like, what's going on? So then it's 8 in the morning. I'm like, all right. Say Deke went to sleep early. I know he stayed up for the game. Game ended at midnight, so he was awake. So it's not like he's getting up at 8. But either way, I'm gonna wait an hour before I send him this text. Then at 9, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna send another text. Still ain't heard. I'm like, come on, bro. I literally was about to call. I was going to do a welfare. Was it a welfare check? That was next on my list because I hadn't heard from you in a appropriate time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said we're constantly in contact. We're always talking, whether it's on the phone, in person, text. Yeah. We talk all the time. So when I didn't hear from you for that long, I got nervous. I didn't like that. And then when I thought of everything that we were watching as well, and everything that transpired throughout the game, and then the fact that it was against the Browns, I was like, man, all right. Does my man need a hug? Do I need to go pull up? I was about to pull up and give you a hug, bro. I thought that's what it was going. I knew it was going to be weird. Me showing up to your house 3 in the morning. Hey, man, I'm sweating because I had my hat on, my lucky hat, and the luck ran out last night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so 27-13's banned forever.
Yeah, man. So in the midst of all of that, I'm like, yo, I might need to go over and get this man a hug just to comfort him, to let him know, like, it's all right. We got this. We live. It's kind of like that scene in Friday Night Lights, the movie one, right? With Derek Luke as Booby Miles. Booby gets hurt. It's like, yo, my knee. Like, what we gonna do? We practice. We traded. Now it's over. It's over. He's just depressed. He's sad. His uncle's like, yo, it's so right. It's so right. He just holds him. I was like, yo, I was ready to pull up on you, especially when I saw Ben and Pouncey crying on the side. I said, oh God. I said, yo, I gotta check my mans. I was ready, but I'm glad I didn't have to do that. It would have been awkward, but I was totally going to do it. And don't mind me if I would have showed it with no shirt on either, because I don't like to wear shirts at night.
I would have appreciated that. Yeah. But yeah, what happened was I just shut off my phone probably like really quick in that first quarter, had it shut off. And then I turned it on before I went to bed, and I saw your text. I was like, I'm just going to wait till I wake up to text back, because I at least wanted to see, like, wait, are we going to be recording early tomorrow or something? Yeah. So I at least wanted to check that.
Well, I'm glad to know that you were at least thinking of the show. And then I saw in the midst of the scenario.
And then I saw 2:15. I'm like, all right, I could sleep in. I could sleep in a little bit. So yeah, that's what happened. And then you texted me literally just as I was waking up. It was around like 9 o'clock. Yeah. So. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm good. Thanks, thanks for checking in.
I was so nervous, though, man. I was so nervous. So, ladies and gentlemen, Deke is alive. Everybody that was asking last night and this morning, Deke is alive. He's in the flesh. I even took pictures with him to make sure that he was alive on this date, so we have proof of that, all right? I promise you.
Whatever happens after this.
I can't speak on after that, but I did my part. As a friend, you were supposed to be there for your friends in need. And I knew that, you know what, you might be a little bit further than I am. Like, I was there, but I said you might be a little, because we know how, you know what I mean? We've talked about that.
I was banged up, man.
Yeah, man.
I was hurt.
It was, you know what they say though, right? Whenever it's something difficult, or even when it comes to swimming, you got 2 approaches, right? You can ease into this thing, or you can just dive right into it.
Talking about this? I was about to call off today. I was about to call off sick. My first one.
I love it.
My first one. COVID.
I was going sick, bro. I can't do it. But you already told us we can't call off sick because you said we could virtually do it now, man. You've put that out in there, and now I feel like I can never call out because of that element. Even when we're on vacation, and obviously we're both going to take trips or do something this off season, it's like, man, it's going to be a time where I'm sitting somewhere, sanding my toes, like, oh yeah, I'm not doing anything, and I'm going to say, well, Deke already told me that we can record virtually, and all I need is this, and I already have these things, so I don't even feel like that's an option anymore. So, because of you, we can't even call out now, unless like your voice stopped working. That's about it, man.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Technology, the gift and the curse, man. The gift and the curse.
I don't know. I think I just would have taken the whole day off, though. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have turned on any of my devices or anything.
Smart, man.
It just would have been like, I'm sick to my stomach, dude.
I contemplated it as well.
No way.
Listen.
No way.
Me and wifey, and trust me now, me and wifey, we love to watch Snapped. It's one of our favorite TV shows. It's always about, about couples, right? Whether it's husbands, wives, whatever, however they're related. And one person in the relationship snaps, kills them. It's always a storyline behind it. We always like to watch it, right? It's our thing. We watch it before we go to bed. It's sick, I know, but it gets us going. We love it, all right? And every Sunday night and Monday night game, we typically don't watch because we're like, we don't watch our show because we're watching the game. Mm-hmm. And we never second guess. We never think like this is a bad decision. We never regret that decision. Last night there was it was multiple times where me and wifey just kind of
you had your watch parties though.
I know, and the watch party was awesome, and that's what helped me. But you got to think for that first half, how it started.
I wanted to ask you about this. Like, So, because you were doing your watch party with Steelers, correct?
No.
Okay.
So
Their first half
I
one?
had 2 scenarios. So this what happened for me yesterday, and I'm gonna do the big like post, and you know what I mean, because it was a cool event for me. I got to do my first playoff game as a media broadcaster. So I was actually at the stadium doing the live pregame show. Me and Missy Matthews.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, it was an awesome vibe. Like the energy, the players, like you going in, everything that was transpiring. So it was great. And then I get home because obviously I have the watch party with with us, in the second half. And literally from the time I left the game to me just getting to my car, like I look and I'm just like, what has happened? I'm talking to my wife and she's like, babe, I'm looking. She had it on the wrong channel. She's like, babe, I had it on the wrong channel. I just flipped to it and we're already down 14. I said, what? How? I just left. They was just kicking it off. I said, I'm going to leave. By the time I get home, we're going to be, 2 series in and nothing has happened. And I was dumbfounded. And then as you could imagine, when I did finally get home after listening to it on the radio while I'm getting back, it's 28-zip. I'm like, bro, this is sick. This is sick. So yeah, man, unreal. Just unreal.
Almost came back, dude.
Yeah. And then almost didn't.
I know. I mean, it was one of those things like,
yeah.
I guess we'll get into it.
Yes.
I mean, I guess it's time because I'm
pulling it up right here.
I probably got a lot to say here.
And listen, usually, y'all know me, I would have the computer up here, or I would even try to fake it and put the computer on my lap, had a phone right here. I'm not even doing that today because you know what? 2 things. Number 1, I want y'all to see the shirt so that way y'all can support us and the local Pittsburgh food bank. But number 2, this is gory. What happened last night, it was very much frustrating. We got to be raw. We got to just let y'all know how we feel. And I did not feel like typing all these questions, but I did take a lot of these questions, all right? Because y'all got to get answers. Y'all deserve answers. And it's on me and Deke to give them to y'all. So without further ado, let's start out on top. And we're starting with Steeler Mike here. Now, granted, I have not proofread these, so forgive me if anything sounds crazy or if, something slips. Steeler Mike, here we go. Where was the defense? All these great players, and it's like they didn't show up. Not 1 sack, not 1 turnover. Wow, Steeler Mike, if I would have known that was going to be the first question, man, oh man, I would have liked your comment as well because that is a great way to kick this thing off. In terms of the defense, man, very disappointed. Obviously disappointed as a whole because anytime you allow 41 points, the defense allowed 41. Obviously, the other touchdown was on the errant snap, the first play of the game. But anytime you allow 40 points as a defense, it's never a good performance under any way, shape, or form. And then when you talk about the different variables coming into this game, right? Them not having their all-world guard in Joe Bitonio, them not having their offensive line coach, assistant offensive line coach, head coach, the personnel that they were putting out there from an offensive line standpoint was already a competitive advantage for us. And then you lose your, best remaining tackle in terms of Jack Conklin. He goes down and yeah, everything was pointing to this is supposed to be where we dominate. This is supposed to be, if everything is going bad, this is the settling force. And the reason I was so disappointed and frustrated was because the 2 A players that we have in that front 7 in terms of TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, we didn't get A level performances from them. And that was the frustrating part because I thought both of them had very favorable matchups. We highlighted Cam Hayward going against Michael Dunn, a guy who was on practice squad for a large portion of the season and didn't have a ton of playing experience. We talked about TJ Watt and how hot he has been coming into this game, but neither one of them made, any type of substantial play in that game. When did we ever feel like, man, that's the break we needed. That's the play we needed, man. Great hurry right here. Great hit on the QB. Did Baker get touched yesterday? The answer, if I remember correctly,
there was 1 or 2 times where it was close, but then he scrambled out, just kind of like he did in the game prior.
Literally no sacks. I looked at the official QB hit stats, no QB hits as well. That's not good. When you talk about how we view our pass rush, how we view our D-line.
As the staple.
And let's be real, it was TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, and Tuitt. So you had your guys. It wasn't like
Highsmith for a portion of the game.
Right. Yeah, at least till right about halftime is when he went down. And obviously we thought that, hey, when Cassius Marsh came in, yes, you expect a little bit of a drop off, especially in the run game. Anyone that has watched him when he was in Seattle, New England, and San Fran, situational edge rusher, not a 4-down stout run defender. That's who he is. And that's kind of, when you start get into your 3 and 4 deep, you're going to get those type of players who have certain issues and things like that. Ola Adeniyi is another one. So we kind of anticipated that. But I said, man, we always said, and this was the big knock that people would have on Bud Dupree last year, right? They said that, hey, Bud Dupree is solely related to Bud Dupree's production is solely because of TJ Watt. And many people, when they tried to discount what Bud was doing a year ago, they simply said, you could put whoever you want on the opposite end, and it doesn't matter. When you have TJ Watt, anyone can get sacks over there. TJ Watt is TJ Watt. And we would always say, man, no, what Bud is being able to do, it opens it up for Cam and for TJ. Bud does some special things. And we saw that again this year, right? And then when Bud left, we did see the rush really started to take a hit. TJ started to take a hit. Cam started to take a hit. And it was frustrating because we put more expectations on them. We said, man, when you lose a key player, you don't look to Highsmith to step up more. You don't look to Cassius Marsh to step up more. You're not looking for backups to step up. No, you look to your A players to put together A-level performances. How many times in the past, and you always bring this up, right? If we've had injuries at receivers or not as much talent, Ben has been that force where it's like, I don't care what's going on. I'm going to make this work. A players playing like A players. We expected that from this defense yesterday, and we never got it. I understand they were put in some very, very bad situations, especially early on. The amount of drives that started on their side of the field, I mean, that's a recipe for disaster. But as a defense, when you take the field, your mindset is 3 points at worst, especially after a turnover or whatever it is. When you take the field, 3 points at worst. And it wasn't that they got scored on. It was the manner in which they got scored on. They didn't look physical.
They scored it well.
Like, when you could just see linebackers getting pancaked, D linemen getting pancaked, and this wasn't their starting offensive line, to see that was the part that just left me just at utter disgust, because I'm like, our guys are too good, and especially how good we've been against the run this year, to get out physical by the Browns, who weren't even at 100% health. Like, that was disheartening, man.
Yeah, I agree, because it goes back to the matchup of them missing all those coaches and everything, them missing all these players on the offensive line. You're like, all right, this is a given. We're gonna make some hay here, and it didn't happen at all. And even with all those things being on the negative side for the Browns, it doesn't really matter if you're just getting manhandled by these dudes. I don't care if these dudes are practice squad or not. If they're coming in here and manhandling you, now I don't. Are these guys more underrated than we thought? I don't want to say that. Right. So then you're going back to, like, what are we doing ourselves here? And yeah, dude, because I was going to talk about that. Like, I did think, as much as the offense did kill us in the first half, like, they were still at like the 50. Then they scored the touchdown.
The other one, I think it took over around like the 40-ish. Yeah.
It might have been a little close, because he returned it.
You're right.
Yes. It was like at the 20 or something like that. So that was even a worse scenario. So, all right, maybe you could say, yeah, that's more acceptable for them to score a touchdown. It's not, like you said, worst case field goal, but that's a little more understanding. I just feel
like for our standard defensively here, if we're talking about some of these other defenses where it was like, oh, I mean, your defense is good, they're not an elite defense, then yeah, you're fine with that. That standard is acceptable. But what do we say about our defense when we talk about the Steelers defense this year? Even when Devin Bush went down, even when Spillane went down, and then when Spillane came back, what did we still say? We said, man, this is one of the best defenses in the NFL, period. And we said this is one of the best rush defenses in the NFL, period. And none of that showed up yesterday. I didn't see, man, we couldn't stop the run. We couldn't create any type of pressure on Baker. And then we started going back and resorting back to things that we've already seen early in the year in terms of the blown coverages, in terms of allowing the big plays, in terms of the tackling as well. Oh, yeah. All of those things start to show up again. I mean, it was the gift and the curse, right? The gift of, we know what it is. We can identify it. We've talked about it multiple times, but it's the curse because it's still happening. We still haven't figured this thing out. We haven't figured out how to consistently address these issues. The drops, we saw that again pop up. No running game, we saw that again pop up. Then in terms of misreading coverages, we saw that pop up a little bit as well. It's frustrating. It's so frustrating because we knew how talented this Steelers team was. And that's why the hype surrounding it was what it was, because they definitely had that potential. But as we've talked about multiple times when we were being critical of them, we said that, man, this is a team that is a lightning rod. They can be really good or they can be really bad. You just really don't know who you're going to get. And at times we say, even with our key guys, when we talk about Ben, Pouncey, and those guys, right? We're like, man, we love them because of their legacy and what they've done. But this year, it hasn't been, it hasn't been a large body of work of the great plays that we've seen. It's been more good to sometimes you get a flash of greatness, but not consistent greatness. Whereas in the past from those guys, and not just those that I named, but all of the our usual guys, our usual A players, right? We weren't seeing a consistent A-level performance from them throughout this year. And I think that's why, especially towards the end, where you look at them going 1-5 down the stretch, it caught up to them when they started to play teams of a little bit higher caliber. And we obviously put more ramifications at the end of the season and playoffs. Talk about that road narrowing. Those things eventually caught up with them. And it was just disheartening, man.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say this too about the defense, even like with the potential comeback, because this is something me and my buddies were saying at like halftime. I think it was, what was it, 25 points? I think it was 25 points, 35-10. So we're thinking, oh man, Patriots Falcons 28-3. It could happen, right? And I think, what was the Chiefs Texans last year? That was like a 20+ point deficit.
Yeah,
but I'm just like, this is possible.
Yes, absolutely.
And what we were talking about of like,
Chiefs were down 21 as well. They were down 21 back-to-back weeks. I thought it was Titans and Texans that got a big one.
I think Texans was a little bit worse. I could be wrong on this, but it was definitely over 20. And we're laying out the scenario. It's like, all right, the offense gets hot.
Yep.
Defense makes some stops. Maybe there's a turnover. That's how the comeback happens. And I felt like the offense really picked it up in the second half.
Go ahead. I want you.
They really picked it up in the second half, but I felt like the defense, they had the 3 drives. I think it was the 3 stops. But then at the end of the day, we couldn't stop Nick Chubb. We couldn't stop their offense. They were able to get like a 6-7 minute drive on us, kill the clock. Like that's what it was. Like, even I know there's probably a question about that 4th and 1, huh?
Yeah. I'm sure it is, but even if it's not,
my main thing is like that mattered, I think, to me in terms of like momentum and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they scored, but we scored right back within like a minute. So it was null.
And actually, I didn't have that up there. I did not. So we can't talk about that as well.
So it was null essentially. It was back to the 12-point deficit. They had the ball. It was like 11 or 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I do think that mattered in terms of momentum. But at the end of the day, we were still at 12 points. The same thing. A lot of time left. But then the defense couldn't get that stop, and that's where they went down on the drive, and then that ended up being like 4 or 5 minutes left.
To me, the things that really killed us, number one, the slow start murdered us. I mean, you go down 28-0 in the first quarter, you're playing catch up for the rest of the game. You're chasing points the rest of the game, which is why they had to keep going for 2 the way they were going for it. I mean, that's the situation you got put in. I did like the response by offense and defense in that third quarter. I thought they responded well. And this was something that we talked about as well on the live. We said, because people were asking, man, do you go ahead and make the switch to put Mason in? Because kind of like that doomsday scenario we were joking about last podcast, we said, man, say you're down big at halftime. Ben has multiple turnovers. Do you go to the guy that we saw have success? And the thing that I told him, I said, man, you give Ben 2 series. If Ben comes out, because we know Ben is a rhythm quarterback. We know Ben all season has started off slow. That's what the offense does. It wasn't going to change, right? So when you thought of all that, I said, man, you give them 2 series. If they come out and it looks the same, then you make that move, because now it's, hey, season's on the line. We got to have it. But if he comes out and he does what we think he can do, that could change the game, right? And what happens? He comes out, touchdown. But then the defense, back-to-back series, you get a 4-and-out, you get a 3-and-out, and you get back-to-back touchdowns by the offense. So everything was working perfect. And literally the reason why everybody talks about the 4th and 1, because that was when everything changed, right? We finally had momentum offensively and defensively. Yeah. But then obviously they're able to go down and march in, and they didn't even march that one. That was the one where we had the missed tackle on Chubb, and that's how they got the touchdown. So it was still more of an explosive play. The next series when they had like that long drive.
Because we scored right back with Claypool. It was like literally a minute drive. We're like, all right, nothing really happened.
Yeah, we were good.
Except the momentum. And that's the big thing to me, man. That's when we really could have.
But this is my thing though, right? So the in terms of people critiquing Coach Tomlin on the 4th and 1, I've seen people say, man, you should have went for it. I saw people say they shouldn't have went for it. For me, the reason why I was cool with him not going for it, we were hot. We had got 2 stops back-to-back defensively. Yeah. Offensively, we had just moved the ball twice and scored. But when it came to short yardage, we had already struggled in this game with short yardage situation, and we were on our side of the field, our 40. I'm thinking to myself, when have the Browns moved the ball on this defense? They hadn't
in the second half.
Think about up until that point, the only time they had success on the ball on offense was when they were taking over on our side of the field.
They had one in the first half. Yeah, it was the one before halftime.
Right, but that's what, like, think about that. We're pointing out one. It didn't even end in the score. I think it ended in the field goal.
They had one really long drive,
Right.
but it was quick though. Like you said, it was explosive.
Right, but we
plays.
never saw them move the ball in terms of consistently marching it. So if you're Coach Tomlin and you know this, you're saying, hey, we've already played the field position game multiple times and won it multiple times this year. We've already shown that we can stop this team, that they can't move the ball. Why do something that we struggle on? We struggle in short yards, 3rd and 1, 4th one. We struggle with that. We don't get movement. Everybody saw the play with Derek Watt, right? It worked the first time. You come back the second time, and who gets blown up?
Bounce.
Exactly. And that's not new. That wasn't the first time that's been happening.
That play would have worked.
Yeah. But those are some of the things that when we talked about the running game and why it was most reason why it wasn't working, it was things like that had been going on. And it just got highlighted last night, even more so because of everything surrounding it. But knowing all those things, if I'm Coach T, I'm with you. I'm like, yo, punt that ball. You have them backed up. You're going to get a 3 and out, or at worst 2 first downs, and you're getting off the field. And we're going to get the ball back with good field position. So that's why for me, I was with it. Now, we can't obviously account for it, them having the success they did after the fact. Now, hindsight 2020, everybody evaluates it and says, oh, you shouldn't have made that. But if you go for it on 4th and 1 there and you don't get it, you kill all your momentum. And if they're already in scoring range, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, it kills the rest of the game, man.
I think the thing was, if you make the stop, well, the worst case scenario did play out where they got the touchdown.
Yes, that was the worst case.
Because you were thinking like, all right, at least if we could hold it to a field goal, it's still 2 score, that type of thing. Let's take the chance and get that 4th and 1. So I was definitely preferring going for it. But my point is, at the end of the day, I don't think that's what really killed us.
No, but
I didn't like it, but it's fine.
To me, and like I said, it was multiple things, right? The last part, though, was the interception. That throw by Ben at the end, that kills you. You talked about the 2 drives, right, where they're able to come back and you finally get it back close. And then you hit I don't know what he was looking at. The linebacker dropping straight back. That killed everything else, because then from there on, by the time he got to that last drive, and granted, that was like the garbage time. You get 77 yards and a touchdown. Makes it look great in terms of your stats. Man, over 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. But it's like, bro, you were down 19 points on that last drive where you got a nice chunk of that yardage. Like, that doesn't justify everything else. So to me, I thought that throw was a big part of that as well. Like I said, multiple pieces played parts, and everybody holds a good amount of blame in this. It's not like it's this guy or it's that guy. It was collective, man. And like I said, it starts up top, the coaching staff as well.
Well, I think... And like you said, there was just bad things going on all around. But dude, that snap like really killed us in terms of like game flow. Because there's multiple times I'm rewatching the game. You're looking at the score differential. It's in the teens, or then it gets down to 12.
That would have been the difference,
bro. This would be a 5-point game if that snap didn't happen. And the spread was 6.5.
Think about this. You could see them getting nervous as well.
I know. If that was 5 instead of 7, like, and because here's the thing: the interceptions at the beginning of the game, like, and even the defense letting them score really quick at the beginning of the game, like that's all within the flow. Where you got to work for it some way or another. That one is just literally handing them 7 points right off the bat. Like, that's crazy. That's the one that's probably most frustrating out of all of them.
I say, even if you could land on it somehow, you take a safety you can live with. 7 out the gate is tough. And then you, like I said, 7 out the gate compounded with the turnover the next series. Now you're in a hole. But the thing that it did, it gave them hope. It gave them belief that they could win, that they could hang around. And you could see early on, even when it was 14-zip, they still didn't believe it. They didn't start believing it until it was 21-zip, 28-zip. You could see their body language change. They talked back a little bit more, celebrated a little bit more.
Probably the one where Kareem Hunt ran over Spillane in the end.
Absolutely, that was the one. Yes, indeed. From there, you could just see everything changed. And that, to me, was the big difference. I was like, man, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, bro, them having that type of momentum now they believe they could play here. And now, even though I felt that we were still going to be the better team, I said, when you're down 28-zip in the first quarter, it doesn't matter how good you are. Now you have to play perfect. We talked about with Ben, right? All year we've talked about, man, Ben throwing the ball 40 plus times, right? If you're doing it, you can win that way, but your margin of error is so small, you have to be perfect. Throws have to be on point. Everybody has to catch. Everything has to operate. When you're down 28-zip, it's the same thing, except now it's magnified. Not only offensively, you got to be perfect. Defensively, you got to be perfect, right? We talked about the defense. They played great in the second half until 2 series in the fourth quarter, and that killed them there. But you got to play perfect. When you're down 28-zip, you don't have the luxury of having 2 bad drives. You can't. Same with the offense. You can't afford a turnover. You can't afford a 3 and out in the second half after you spot a team 28 points. That's what we always talk about, starting fast. You talk about protecting the ball, not spotting teams' points. That's what happens, because now think about as good, man, outside of that first quarter, you could really make a case that, man, we outplayed them. You could make that case.
Yeah. No, we did. Yeah. Second quarter all the way to fourth quarter. I felt like we did.
And that was even with the turnovers. That was even with the defense giving up the 2 scores late in the game. But the problem is you can't erase what happened in the first quarter. It's not Madden. We can't hit the reset button. We can't say, oh man, that quarter doesn't count. Just brush that to the side. Look at us here. It doesn't work that way. And that's why we're sitting here at home frustrated and they're advancing right now, man.
Yeah, frustrating, man.
That was a good question by Steeler Mike. Nice way to start us out, baby. Yes, indeed.
We talked about probably like 3 questions throughout that whole thing.
Maybe. But either way, it's all good.
That's how it flowed. Yeah.
We needed it, man. All right, this next one is from Matt Edwards. All right. What do you think the chances are that Big Ben, Pouncey, and JuJu are all back next season?
All 3? Like if you're putting a percentage on all that?
Yeah.
I have no clue. You might know a little bit more than me.
Put it like this. Initially, I thought...
Can you put a percentage on each player?
That's going to be tough. I'll just break down the scenarios. I'll do this the way. In terms of Ben and Pouncey, initially, I got nervous. When I saw them both on the sideline crying after the end of the game, these are my guys. I played with them both 4 years. Obviously known them a lot longer than that. I've never seen them cry. Not after a game. Never seen it. I've seen them angry. I've seen them sad. I've never seen tears like that. And it wasn't like the show tears, right? Sometimes we'll say that guy cries, but it's because he knows the camera's around. No, seriously, you get those guys because fans will look and say, oh man, look at him, man. He really cares about this. And the whole time he's like,
Did they go to acting classes or something? Isn't that hard to do?
No, it's not hard to do, man. No, not at all. You got to think, man, this is, yeah. We're trained to be in front of the cameras all our lives, man. So yeah, all right, I know if I give you, they're gonna be like, oh, he really cares. Like, I didn't care about that game. And then you got some where you're like, I don't care about that game. You like, bro, I really did care about that game. Like, we know how to play that game. And we also know, hey, if I'm sitting right here, cameras on me, if I drop a tear, they're going to see that. I thought it was the case initially. Now I'm like, no, these dudes are like really crying. Both of them are like taking in this moment. And then obviously JuJu comes at the end. So it had me concerned. I'm like, yo, maybe they both about to retire, right? Because I already know that Pouncey said he's retiring whenever Ben does. Whenever that happens, that's what he said. But then hearing the post game and hearing Seven talk, then it had me flipping, thinking like, no, okay, he's not going to just walk away. I think he does want to come back because he kept talking about the fans.
I do think Seven's coming back.
Yeah, he kept saying he wants to be around the fans. He kept talking about missing the fans and less about, man, would he want to walk away on that being his last performance? I don't think that holds the same weight as, I think that because of the love that he got here in Pittsburgh, and he's definitely earned this. I think he wants that farewell, that last go around of being able to run out that tunnel, pointing to the sky, having the fans go crazy. All of us, we missed that. That's the part that, no, I mean, guys retire and we talk about not wanting to play the game. You talk about not wanting to study and things like that. You missed that part though. The fans, the love from the fans, you missed. That's nothing like it. And I do think that Ben wants another go of that. Now, I don't know how that's going to weigh, but obviously he has a lot of money that's going to get paid to him as well. So I think he's supposed to make 30. I think it's 30.
Is it 41?
No, 41 for the cap hit.
Okay.
But his actual salary is, I think it's like 34, 35. But that's the difference. I mean, even when you talk cap versus actual like salary, it's always different. Sometimes it could be the same, but a lot of times your cap number will be higher, especially depending on restructures and stuff.
That had something to do with the past year or so, where we probably bumped his contract a little bit.
So literally, if you look at you look at the details on his contract right now, technically his base salary is only $4 million. Difference is he has a $12.5 million signing bonus and a $14.5 million roster bonus as well. So that's kind of how the numbers are definitely more, I think, with the signing bonus and the roster bonus. But that's how they formulate it. So that way, come season, the $4 million initially is, you're trying to balance that down. Whereas if you just give him $35 million as a base salary, the cap hit is even more ginormous. So those are some of the things that you do in terms of just converting money from base salary to signing bonus and roster bonuses. Omar Khan, that's one of his big tricks. Any of the players that have signed mega deals here, you all go through that where it's going to be, all right, instead of me giving you a high base salary, we're going to give you high signing bonus. We're going to give you high this bonus, that bonus to make it pop up. The money's still going to come to you, but it's just how you structure it for cap purposes. So with all of those things said, now that, like I said, I don't think he's going to retire. The next question, like I said, is going to be more so coaching wise and GM wise. Are you comfortable with Ben at 41? And not talking age in terms of the $41 million cap hit that he's going to have next year. The options we laid out, we said you either play him under the 41, that'll be the last year on the deal. You could extend him, and obviously that would lower the cap hit next year, but obviously it kicks the can down the line, meaning those bills are going to come due whenever it happens.
Right.
Or the other alternative, and I don't believe this is the same with him retiring, but I know if they were to release him, I don't think they will do that. But if they did do that, the cap hit is cut in half. It'll be right around 21 million, I think it is. So they're going to have those conversations. Obviously, Seven's going to be a part of those conversations, determining in terms of if he wants to come back, if he's open to restructuring that contract somehow, some way, if Kevin Colbert wants him back, if they want to go in a different direction. All those conversations are going to be had, and they have to be had because of how the season played out. When you lose a game like that last night to your division foe, when you see not only Cleveland win a playoff game, you saw Baltimore win a playoff game as well. So that whole narrative of they can't win in the big games, Lamar can't do it, that's been put to rest. And then you also know Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, we saw what he was able to do before he got injured. Colbert might be saying, man, you know what? We're about to be on the back end of this. We might need to start, trying to look to make something happen now and to catch up with these guys. All of those conversations are going to be had. We don't have those answers right now. I wish I did, but if I did, I wouldn't be here. I'll be, a GM somewhere. So yeah, but it's crazy, man. And in terms of Pouncey, I would have to look at his numbers a little bit more from a contract standpoint. But I know if Ben,
I did actually check Pouncey. I think it's like like if he was released or something, it was like 3. Oh man, I think he'd still count for the cap around 3 million or something like that.
Yeah, because he's gonna have dead money. All of those guys,
would be
releasing,
maybe it was
money.
5 even.
Yeah.
I can't remember right off the top of my head, but it was still a decent amount. I guess. I don't know if that's considered a decent amount or not.
No.
But I'm
like
sure that adds up.
5, the problem is this: 5 isn't bad by itself, but when you got 5, Vince got 7. This guy has another 4. He has a 2, and it adds up that way. So that's the biggest thing. But for Pouncey, typically with his production, you don't trip on that 5 million typically. But right now, that's going to be something else going to be evaluated because this is back-to-back years where we saw his play really decline. Now, granted, he still received accolades, right? In terms of Pro Bowl, we talked about that, and that's what we said. The Pro Bowl versus All Pro is drastically different in terms of what we were seeing from him, right? So they're going to have to look into that as well in terms of, number one, does he want to return? Because that's always the big thing. When you talk about players that are getting a little bit older, have done this for a long time, what's their desire? It was a bad performance in terms of the team getting beat the way they got beat. Obviously, he played a part of a turnover. So you never know mentally how guys are initially. So it's going to take some time for him to even figure out what he wants to do as well. So that's why when you talk about both of those guys, I really can't give you a concrete, I think 50% they come back. They don't. It's hard to put it because there's so many variables that take place on both sides. Now with JuJu, I think it's cut and dry with JuJu. If JuJu wants to get the most money that he can make, he's going to leave. He's going to hit the market. And that's that. It's going to be a team out here with a lot of money that will overpay him. And I do think it's overpaying him. I think he's a high end number 2, but I don't think he is a number 1. I don't think he's a franchise number 1, but there will be teams out here with a ton of money that will pay him like that. If he stays in Pittsburgh, they won't pay him to that level. They'll pay him good, and they'll pay him a good amount of money. It'll be respectable. It's not going to be nothing to bulk at, but it's not going to be what he could truly get on the open market. So that's going to be the decision that they're going to have to make. The organization, they're not in control of that.
We could make it work if he's willing to take the so-called hometown
discount. But it's going to be up to him in that regard because for a fact, the play that he's had this year, granted, at times, like I said, it looked really good, and then at times it kind of was down.
Like yesterday, like you see some of these combat catchers,
right?
Like, holy hell! Like I don't know who else is making these plays.
Like sometimes, like and that's the thing with him. He's such a lightning rod in terms of what do you view him as? Because if you look at his body of work for 4 years, it's number 1 receiver productivity. But when you look at his body of work minus AB, it has been very bad at times. This year was a lot better. Obviously, you had Ben back out there and some other help at receivers, but people can still debate if he was the number 1 guy this year. So that's why when you're talking about how you want to pay him, it's harder to, if you're Pittsburgh, is he a number 1? Is he a number 2? What is he to you guys? To other teams, like I said, other teams, they're going to have the decisions made. I think he's a number 2. I'm not paying him more than that. But you're going to get a team that has a plethora of money, and they might have a rookie quarterback or a quarterback on a rookie deal, and they're saying, well, look, man, let's get him a piece. You know what? We can overpay this guy. Pay him, bring him in here, even though it's probably a couple mil too much. We'll take it. It can help us for right now. Depends on what he's looking for. honestly, I've seen guys go both ways. We've seen, and I think about Pittsburgh receivers. We've seen Pittsburgh receivers that decided to take that money, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. We've seen guys that say, hey, I'll take less and stay, and how that thing has played out. I was one of the guys, even as a defender, that took less to stay because I felt like the opportunity was better. I felt like not only would I make more money in the long run, but I would just have more success.
You were thinking about this podcast, dude.
That was it. I said, man, I haven't met Deke yet. But listen, pregnant wife, I don't care about what you're talking about. I'm going to stay because of Deke.
There's going to be some random dude in Pittsburgh. I don't know what's going to happen.
He's going to slouch all the time, show taco meat, and he's going to have one eyebrow for a couple of episodes. But he's the guy. So that was the real decision behind it. But a lot of us, you make those decisions, man. And you've heard, and honestly, I've talked to guys like William Gay, Will Allen, guys who were here, left to get paid, and then came back. And same concept. We're like, bro, it's different when you leave, man. It's not always, green grass over there. So
that's actually it's a weird thing because JuJu is very much into the social media and all that type of stuff. I do think being in Pittsburgh helps that a little bit. I do a little bit. You say
that, but to me, I'm looking like if he goes to the Rams, if he goes to the Chargers,
okay,
you got
LA.
the USC connection.
Yeah, depending on what team you go to,
right? Like to me, I'm like,
but like, are they going to be
Miami's?
I'm thinking the type of team that's going to be.
The Chargers could, because think about this: Herbert's on a rookie deal.
Okay, because I'm just thinking the type of team that's going to pay him is like the Jets or the Jaguars or some type of shitty team.
Yeah, but what are the Chargers right now?
Yeah, but you're right. The LA market. I guess it depends on the team. Like if it's the Cowboys or something like that, but they don't need a receiver. But yeah.
Because
maybe there's 5 other teams.
Right, I don't feel like Rams because he would be what Robert Woods is there. Robert Woods is their high end number 2. Love Robert. That's my guy. I had him as a rookie in Buffalo. Same concept though. A high end number 2. Not a number 1 receiver by himself. If he's out there by himself, he's going to struggle. His numbers are better when he's out there with Cooper Kupp and he has the full gamut around him. Similar situation with JuJu. So that's why I don't think the Rams would necessarily be the ones to pay him like that. But a team like the Chargers, come on, man. They got a rookie quarterback. They're going to also be trying to find ways to drum up interest because they're the little brother of the LA market. I mean, you think about the Rams, you got the Lakers, the Clippers, the Dodgers, all these other teams out there. What would get them talked about? You got the young quarterback, and then you bring in the USC kid, JuJu, that everybody loves.
Wow.
Not saying that it's going to happen, but you could just see right there that's how a rumor gets started. JuJu's linked to the Chargers. But that's how something like that can happen. And for JuJu, imagine if the numbers are the same, right? If Pittsburgh's paying them and they're saying, hey, we'll give them 10 a year, and the Chargers like, we'll give you 10 a year, we'll give you 9 a year, but you're going to be in LA with all these other things for you. He might say, well, you know what? I like that opportunity better. Let me do that. So that's why for him, I think it's that cut and dry. If he wants the most money, he will leave. But if he wants to stay here, obviously he's going to have to take less. But that's going to be his personal decision. And I'm not faulting him either way. I think whatever he chooses is going to be the right decision for him and his family. And that's ultimately how it has to be. Obviously, we're biased. We would love for him to stay here because we saw how he helps. He's impactful.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I probably have him as the 2 or 3 receiver, but you could tell just like, man, he fits in the offense.
Yes.
He just fits into what we're doing now.
And then got to have his situations. Ben isn't looking at Deontay. Ben isn't looking at Claypool. Got to have his situations.
You see some of those sketches yesterday.
JuJu. He looks to JuJu. Absolutely.
Yeah, the question is, like, can his production be replaced by Washington? Maybe a rookie that we bring in or something like that.
And then Washington obviously played well in his little opportunities yesterday.
Yeah, that's the thing. Are you willing to pay JuJu X amount? I don't know what it's going to be. Is it going to be 7 or 8?
But that's why when I said that if you're the Steelers, you're not going to overpay him.
No.
You don't have to because you have the full gamut. You have Deontay, who we feel, I mean, if he could just mentally stay out his own way, he could be a bona fide number 1. You got Claypool, who just give him opportunities. He showed last night he could be a bona fide number 1. James Washington, the forgotten one.
He could be like JuJu.
We already said that. We talked about him how many weeks ago? We said, man, James Washington needs more opportunities.
Just maybe a little less physical.
Yeah, but he gets those opportunities. He can ball. So if you're the Steelers, and this is before you even draft another receiver, which you've hit on 3 straight drafts now when it comes to receivers, right? You keep hitting.
Just the guy to come in 600, 700 yards
like,
maybe.
Bro,
you never know.
Like, man, we're not tripping. We can get another guy to do that. So that's why, like I said, it's really going to just fall on what JuJu wants to do. But the Steelers are not going to offer him true market value. It'll be competitive, but it's not going to be true market value or above market value. So you just have to decide. And like I said, that's player and his family deciding on that, because it's a different conversation. When me and my wife had that conversation, man, if I would have talked to my mom and dad, they're telling me, man, what are you thinking taking less to stay in Pittsburgh? They didn't draft you. Go down here to Atlanta where you're going to get the buku bread, where you know, hey, that number rising up. The only reason the number is where it's at right now is because Atlanta came into the picture. Pittsburgh tried to lowball you. Remember that? So, man, run it up on Atlanta, get paid, and you good. Wifey's like, nah, man, play the long game, man. You know everything is set up for you. You've had success. Y'all went to the plus for the first time, won a division for your first time. You're part of a young core right here. You could be a part of something awesome here. We flirted with it. We got close multiple times. Never could get to that confetti, but it worked out. And then obviously you saw in that same 4-year span for Atlanta, man, it wasn't the same for me. Now, granted, they had 1 year.
You'd have been at the Super Bowl.
Well, this is the thing. So I laughed because funny thing was one of the players that they ended up signing that when I decided not to sign, they ended up signing. And I'm looking, I was like, well, he got a chance to go to the Super Bowl. And that was awesome. And I said, literally in 2 years, he was cut. Because of after the Super Bowl, remember how everything played out for them and how it was downhill. And now I'm looking at that roster compared to 14, 15 when I had that opportunity. I'm like, man, that would have been a disaster. The money would have been great up front, but I would have never saw the rest of that money because they went and did the mass rehaul. When they got rid of guys, they said, oh, no, we just blow it up. Y'all part of the old regime. So hindsight, I was like, man, it worked out even better. But those are the conversations and the decisions that are going to have to be made. It's not easy. Because when you talk about these type of numbers, you talk about changing your life financially, or it should be changing your life financially. If you do it right, it should be. We know, obviously, not everybody does it right. People do go broke with this thing. But if you do it right, man, this is a big opportunity for you. So you never know how many chances you're going to get. Obviously, Shazier is the prime example, right? He was in line for that, never got that opportunity. So it's very significant in terms of that decision. And that's why if you're JuJu, man, you don't want to rush this thing, man. You take your time. Think about that thing. Have a couple of meals. You know what I'm saying? Eat a little bit. Relax. Woosah. Take a trip somewhere. And then like let that thing come into you because it's a big time decision, man. Whatever you do, it's going to affect you. It could affect your career. Realistically, for JuJu, at this point right now, it could affect him, man. So, yeah.
Sure.
That was a good question, though, man. Shout out to... Who was that? Shout out to Matt, man. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I don't know. That's tough. Just a percentage for all three. Yeah. If I'm going to break it down, I do think Ben's coming back. Pouncey, I don't know. I guess I would lean more towards the comeback. If you're going to say it 50%, maybe I'd say 55.
Okay.
JuJu, I don't know. I actually, that's the one that's probably the most tossed up.
Because I feel like I know Pouncey is directly related to Ben. If Ben is back, I feel like Pouncey will be back. And granted, this is barring organization saying it. So I think the best way to break it down is, do I think they want to come back, Ben and Pouncey? Absolutely. JuJu, we already broke that down. I think it's 50-50. I don't know how he's going to decide from the money standpoint. I think he loves it here, but when you're talking about what he could potentially make on the open market, that love is a little different. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Mine, we were still flirting in the ballpark. It wasn't like, oh, they're giving you 30 and here they're giving you 10. It was like, we talking, there was, 1 to 2. Even though it's significant, you're like, that 1 to 2, am I really going to see it there? I can definitely see all of this here. A ton of success. It'll work out. A little different decision for JuJu right now. JuJu, it's not going to be a 1 to 2. No. We might be talking if it's a 5 and 10. Different conversation. Way different conversation, man.
Yeah. And I think at this point, with how JuJu played out his Steeler career, he'll still get that Steeler love post career if he wants it. It's not like one of those scenarios. Like if he wants to come back, I don't know what you could be doing post career, like in terms of, I don't know, what would you say, collabing with Steelers?
Yeah, anything.
I think that would work out. You heard what Ben said about him in the post game. Like he's the epitome of what a Steeler means. Tough, physical, all that type of stuff. So yeah, I think even if he does leave, he's in a good relationship with Steelers in Pittsburgh.
And let's be real. The past 2 years were the biggest reasons why people got on JuJu and have a sour taste, because when AB left last year, especially, the productivity dropped. And then this year, the productivity was cool, but
the dance,
it became more so. And we talk about this, right? And this is one of Coach Tomlin's things. If the distraction outweighs the productivity, now we got issues. With AB, with L Bell, with some of those guys, it was always productivity was so good that you overlook the distraction. You overlook the outside noise surrounding the player. This year with JuJu, it wasn't 50-50. It wasn't productivity outweighing it. It really became, especially around that Bills game, man, that dominated the narrative for JuJu. That dominated everything. Anytime the Steelers played bad, anytime teams had success, it was Corvette, JuJu dancing, or Brown's gonna Brown. Like they're reaching for all of these things. And like I said, I feel like, did they play a part? A small part, but that's not going to dictate the outcome. We said that gives you a spark, but you still got to execute and everything to ignite it into a fire. But with JuJu, because he wasn't consistent, if we would have saw last night's performance consistently from JuJu, different conversation. And he played at a high level. He was almost at 1,000 yards, almost at 100 receptions, almost at double-digit touchdowns.
I even think them taking that previous interview he did, I think that was a little unfair and taken out of context.
Absolutely, they did. Because, and the thing that he said was definitely what Coach Thomas says, nameless great faces. That's not a shot at the Browns. They tried to make it that, but nameless great faces means this, and we've talked about this before. It doesn't matter who you're playing. It could be the 72 Dolphins. It could be the 2016, 2017 Browns. It doesn't matter. You have to go out here focused. You have to come out here and play your game. You can't allow yourself to alter your preparation, alter your just overall passion for the game based on your opponent. So to guard against that, they're all just nameless gray faces. They took the whole quote. I got to just read the whole quote. It's like, no, man, it's nameless great faces. The Browns, they done some good things, but they're still the Browns. It's the same Browns that we faced before. They didn't
include some type of sentence in there, too.
It was 2 sentences they left out. And I was just like, bro, come on, man. But we know
that's the thing.
That sells. That's what they want.
That's the thing. Like, he stopped doing the dancing. It's like, now I'm going to defend you for, like, these people trying to reach for shit now. But if you're doing the dancing, you're bringing that on yourself a little bit. But at this point, after you stop, like, now it's getting too much. Right. Like, we're going to defend JuJu. He's our guy now. And I was glad
to see also that after the game, when they asked, oh man, are you going to take back your Browns, the same Browns? And he said, no. And I agree with him, but he also said, no, I'm not going to take it back. But they did play well. They won the game. Tip your cap to them. That's respect. But realistically, if you're JuJu, you feel like how we feel. We feel more so like that was more us self-inflicted than them just coming here and just taking it from us. But when you put yourself in that scenario, you really can't sit here and have those type of comments because then it's just sour grapes, right? Yeah. You just got to deal with it. But that's why JuJu said what he said after the game in terms of, no, I don't regret anything I said because we broke it down. Outside of that first quarter, it was the same look. We saw the same eyes going around when that score got cut to 2 scores. Oh, God. Whoa, hey, man. Whoa. Baker started looking around. We all looking around. That's Browns. It is what it is, though, man. Like I said, I don't think that any of that he said pregame, any of the postgame stuff, I don't think any of it had a real impact on the game, man.
Yeah.
Had to pull up this guy's name again, man. Man. My phone keeps closing on me.
What's that? That was 2 questions, huh?
That was only 2 questions, yes. Shout out to Matt. All right. Then we're already an hour into this thing. Let's keep cooking. All right. This next one. And like I said, we don't care if it's a long one today. You know what? Because this is our wrap up to the 2020-21 Steelers regular season. Now, Steelers season. Now, obviously, we're still going to be recording stuff like that. But this is the wrap up for that portion of it. So we got to, got to have a little group therapy right here real quick, man, because it hurts us. All right, this one's from Cam Letson. This is actually a long question. All right, my question is for Moats because I already know Deke's answer.
Oh, man.
Dang. All right, now I'm reading the right. Okay. Does Ben's 500-yard, 4-touchdown game mean nothing because of the picks? And if so, do you think it's time to move on? Cam, first off, I do think, it was impressive, but at the same time, it was disheartening. Ben's performance last night is the equivalent, to my eyes, Jameis Winston's performance on the season a year ago, where he led the league in passing and had 30 touchdowns, 30 picks, right? How do you want to spin it? Do you want to talk about the 30 touchdowns and the 5,000 yards passing? Because remember, some people wanted to talk about that, but then a large portion of people, especially when we talked about him potentially coming here to Pittsburgh, we didn't focus on the positive. We focused on what? The 30 interceptions. So for me, I just need to know who I'm talking to. Are we talking to somebody that wants to highlight the positives, the 400 yards passing, the 47 completions for a playoff record, the 4 touchdowns? Or are we going to talk about the 68 attempts, the 4 interceptions, the costly turnovers at very timely points? That's why for me, it's like it was great and bad all at the same time. But at the same time, that's why we're not putting it all on Ben either, because it was multiple variables. But his game was very inconsistent. At times he looked bad. At times he looked really good. Just depends on what you want to focus on. So for me, in terms of moving on from him, that's the tough part, right? Because you got a glimpse of it once again in the second half. You got it just enough. And the problem also is this: we're starting to run into this territory of, and I don't want to say it's not out of disrespect, but it's more so it's becoming more flirtatious with Phillip Rivers versus Aaron Rodgers, meaning this. Phillip Rivers is still a good quarterback. We saw that in the Bills game, right? But we also saw how inconsistent he can get at times, right? He can get really hot or he can be really cold, right? Turnovers, just bad passes, whatever it may be. Whereas a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you don't see as much fluctuation. It's a lot more of just greatness. You don't have to worry about the untimely or back-breaking turnovers. right now with Ben, especially in the second half of the season, we started to see a lot more Phillip Rivers style where he would heat up at times, but for the large majority of it, we would still be waiting like, man, is this about to happen? And then something bad would happen, whether it's him struggling with the deep ball, whether it was the turnovers and things like that. So that's why for me, I don't personally know if you move on from him just yet, because you got to decide if you're going to move on from him. Are you believing that Mason's the guy? Is there a guy that you want to make a move for in terms of trading? I know people talk to Deshaun Watson. For that to happen, it's going to take a ton of assets, a ton of that, and potentially some players. But in terms of other free agents, man, Sam Darnold, right? Carson Wentz. There's multiple quarterbacks out here that you can go through free agency for, or potentially drafting one. Those are all the decisions that have to be made, though, if you move on from Ben. Now, you can still make those decisions if Ben is here, but it's less pressing because you already have the quarterback going into next season. But you got to ask yourself, are we going rebuild next year, or is it last dance next year? Because that's the big difference, right? If we go last dance, you're bringing the full band back, right? You might make one or two moves, but you're not making mass overhauls. You're not changing coordinators. You're not changing quarterbacks. You're not changing, multiple mega spots. You're going to ride it out, right? You're going to say, hey, man, this is our last hurrah. If it works out, great. If not, we already know the band is broken up. Or you could just say, man, we're going to rebuild this thing now. We feel like we're kind of in a rut. We're complacent. We don't think we're going to improve much further than where we're at right now. So let's just blow it up, switch out quarterback, switch O-lineman, get Dotson out there, Fowler out there. We're going to move this guy over here, and you go that route. That's going to be on Colbert, though. That's the thing, man. I personally, if it's my decision, number one, I'm talking to Ben. I got to see how he feels. If he feels like he's healthy, he feels like he can still come back, I like that a lot. Number two, I got to give him the tough decision. He can come back, but we got to talk about the contract. I'm not extending you. This will be your one and done, but you're going to have to do it at some type of finagled, prorated, cap-friendly situation to make this thing go, because what I've seen from you this year, I'm not willing to go next year for $41 million on the cap with that. That's me personally.
Can you do 41 and run it back for the most part?
This is the issue with the 41. I mean, you can, but think about the player. So, you're going to pay TJ Watt, right? So when you talk about Ben playing under the 41, this is how this affects us. We said JuJu, right? He's up for a contract. What does that look like? We know that, hey, he's gonna still command some money, a good amount of money. We already talked about TJ Watt. So we got JuJu, TJ. James Conner's another one, right? Depending on what you want to do with him, because if you let him leave, I mean, are you confident going forward with Benny Snell and McFarland and Jalen Samuels? Not a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. So now you got to look to replace that. Also, defensively, Mike Hilton and Cam Sutton, both of those guys got to get paid now. And both of them played at high levels and showed different things about their game. Mike Hilton more so showed that he could cover at a higher level. Cam Sutton showed that he's not just a slot corner, but he could play outside as a number one corner as well. So those are five guys just off the top of our head. And that doesn't even include Bud Dupree, who we already feel is a foregone conclusion. It's just not enough money available to him. So those five are directly impacted by that 41 that Ben is going to be playing under if he plays under that next year. So that's why for me, those five guys that I just named are a lot more valuable at this stage in their career than Ben is for 41 for 1 year. Because if any of those five guys leave, think about how just pivotal they were to the success that we had this year, right? If you don't have that group, and these are young players, guys that are going to be here for the next 5 years, potentially, could be even longer if they can, stay healthy, continue playing at a high level. Whereas Ben, even you said it, right? Man, I would love him best case another 2 to 3 years. That's best case. Absolute best case. Whereas those younger guys, they're going to be here for the next 2 to 3 years if you get them under contract. And it doesn't even have to be a best case scenario. And they're all going to be a lot cheaper as well. So that's why for me, I just don't see how you have him play under that 41. Now, I don't know how you go about it. I would have to look at the details on it. I have seen scenarios where they will just say, hey, look, you're technically not cut, but they tear up the last year of your deal, right? Just tear that contract up and just sign you to a new deal.
Yeah.
So they could literally tear up that last year. You take the 19 mil cap hit, and then however you want to negotiate that new contract, 1 year deal where he still have a good salary, whether it's through, like I said, low base salary, nice signing bonus, so he's still compensated the right way, but it doesn't kill you from a cap standpoint. And in that way, you can make the moves. But I don't know all the ramifications that go with them doing that. I do know that if they cut him, though, his cap hit does decrease halfway. And that is huge. When you talk about the 5 guys I named, that 21 million that will be remaining, yeah, you'll be able to get a good amount of those guys. You might be able to get them all under there, depending on the
how you want to
structure it. Yeah, front loaded versus back loaded. So you could just see why this is such a big decision.
Well, and it seemed like Ben was open to it.
Yeah, it definitely
in his
did.
interview or his press conference afterwards.
It definitely did.
Dude, my thing, I know he said this question wasn't for me, but I mean, I think you hit it on a little bit earlier in your answer, though. Like, dude, you saw throws. You're like,
right.
I think there's only 5 guys that can make some of these throws yesterday. Dude, you've talked about before the deep pass from one side to the opposite end of the field.
Dude.
Like, he had a couple of those throws. I'm like, dude, you can't make these throws.
The throws that were impressing me the most, him hitting the honey hole in cover 2, because we broke this down, right? We did a little film session and we talked about how when Mason was out there last week, they played cover 3, cover 4, but they would lock up the backside corner 1-on-1. And that's how Claypool and Deontay Johnson were really able to feast on their corners. And we were saying, man, if they play that type of coverage against 7 should light them up. They didn't really give it to him. 7 saw man-to-man or man concepts on the perimeter maybe once or twice, and the one was when he hit Claypool for the touchdown. So anytime he got it, he took advantage of it. But they ran a lot of cover 2, a lot of Tampa 2, very similar in terms of safeties over top. You got your corners that are going to be super aggressive, but they don't have to run with these guys vertical. You love it because number 1, it disrupts the timing, but number 2, you always have safety help over top, and those corners, they weren't their premier corners. They were the backups. So that's why you operate like that. But to see Ben still be able to hit those spots, that to me was impressive. But that's why I said he's still kind of in that Phillip Rivers range right now because of in that same game.
But here's my thing with the Phillip Rivers. Like, he's got way more talent still, I think, and arm talent.
See, you say that, but I feel like the people that knocked Phillip Rivers' arm, I don't feel like that was the case this year. When I watched him, I thought his arm looked good. I thought his decision making was bad, and I thought at times his accuracy was off. But that's the same thing we said about Ben this year. Think about how many times we talked about the deep ball and how we would throw a pep rally for one deep ball every couple of games. Whereas then we saw the young kid Mason come in and he hit multiple deep balls in one game. That's the difference. And it's not saying that Ben isn't good anymore. That's the thing too. I feel like people, when we talk about Ben's contract in this situation, they think if we're talking about doing any movement with Ben, it's because he's not good. We're not saying he's not good. Good is fine. But $41 million cap hit, you don't have that for good players. Think about Vince Williams. We love Vince. If Vince cap hit was $20 million, you think we would want Vince out there? Not a chance. And that's my dog. But that's the difference. When you talk in a salary cap league, when you have to construct your roster, that's what changes things. It's less about if this guy is still good or not. It's his productivity worth what his cap hit will be? Because when you look at the other guys who have higher cap hits like that, their productivity is a little bit different. The expectation around them, how they carry their team is a lot different. It's not as much of a roller coaster. It's not as much ebb and flow. It's a steadier, calming thing, something that we were accustomed to Ben a couple of years ago. But at this stage, obviously he's a little bit older and coming back from a surgery. It's expected. But that's what makes it a little bit different because of how much it's going to cost.
Well, here's what I wanted to say, though, too. I mean, you look at Rodgers last year, you look at Brady this year. You can even talk about Wilson this year getting blown out in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. That type of stuff happens. I think what's frustrating to me is hearing people say, like, oh, man, he's washed. Now, if you want to question...
No, he's not
That's what I'm saying. If you want to question his decision-making or how he's played over these past, 4 or 5 games, that's fine. But, like, he is not washed at all. No. And this is what I think. Like, you saw with Brady with New England last year. You saw with Rodgers. I don't know how much Packers really reconstructed their roster, though.
They didn't.
If he's just playing better.
Well, even last year, think about this. They said he played bad. He still had 27 touchdowns. I think 6 or... It was either 5 or 6 interceptions, and he still threw for 40... It was high 4,000s for passing. He still had a really good year. It just wasn't the freaky astronomical.
Well, yeah,
years.
and that's kind of my thing. I wonder what Packers people were talking about with Rodgers last year. Obviously, they drafted Love, but like after that San Fran game, like, dude, that's how they went out there was embarrassing. I mean, obviously we went out bad this year, but like think, even last year with Rodgers,
I think the difference is this: you're solely focusing on this playoff. Not even you, but a lot of people are too. They focus solely on this one game, and make that knee-jerk decision. To me, when I speak on Ben, it's more so full body of work. It's less about records. It's more so when we watched him, what did we see from him? Not the drops. I don't care about the drops. The drops were still good passes. Some of the misses, though, were bad misses. Some of the interceptions were bad interceptions. And that showed up a lot more this year than we have ever seen from Ben. And to me...
But only 10 picks, though, throughout the year.
Yeah, and that's no different than they say, well, we only had how many sacks all throughout the year? Man, the offensive line was great. If you want to go that route...
But if anyone watched the game, we were getting the ball out quick to deter that.
But this is what I'm saying, though. So when you talk about the 10 picks, my rebuttal is, how many times have we seen picks get dropped this year? We saw multiple, at least one get dropped last night.
You got touchdowns and continuing catches get dropped
No. You brought up the stat part. I'm just simply showing you why you can't just solely say a stat as if that's the gospel, because it's other variables. The same way you just came back with another variable, right? So when I said in terms of, man, him struggling with seeing the field, him struggling with some of the turnovers, and you said we only had 10 picks. I'm just telling you, it's more than just the stats.
This is what I wanted to say. I think Brady's actually a good comparison because he did not look right with the Patriots last year. But from everything I saw, I'm like, dude, I think the talent's still there. Like he just needs the right pieces around him, whatever it is. And now he's down in the box. He looks amazing. Yeah. So with us, can we get a running game going? Can we get our offensive line improved? And I think we can win games next year.
Fair enough.
That's what I mean.
But I think the difference too is this though. With Brady last year, and I mean, people definitely were getting on him. You talked about it. The thing to me was this. I thought we're still agreeing that he didn't have help. Not arm issues. It was help issues.
We don't have help on the line and running game. Though.
But
I think that's a big part of winning games.
No, I'm with you on that, right? Yeah, Ben does need help. Sure. But we never talked about Brady in terms of deep ball accuracy.
I don't know what deep balls he was throwing, though. Get
out of here. Stop it, bro. Stop it.
Last year, who was he throwing to last year?
Stop it, bro. We're not doing that.
What do you mean?
Come on, bro.
Wait,
I'm just simply saying.
You're right. I don't know if we talked about it because I don't know what he was throwing deep last year. I don't know who his receivers. They were bad.
His accuracy was never an issue, though. That's all I'm saying. No one, and that's why I said.
I think people were questioning just if he had it or not, though.
Just hear me. Are you gonna listen?
I'm hearing you out.
No, you're not. You're defensive right now.
No,
you know how you get. I've already showed you this. I said whenever we get to talking about Ben and we got to critique.
No,
him,
I feel like it's a good conversation.
It is, but you're definitely getting defensive because it's like I let you talk, and then when I'm about to talk, as soon as I say one thing, you're like, whoa.
I'll let you talk.
That's all I'm saying, man. So you keep bringing up the Brady analogy, and I do like it because they are similar. Both cases, yes, a run game was needed in both places. And talking about Brady in New England, not Brady in Tampa. So yes, both places need running game. In terms of the receiving help, nah, Ben's receiving core compared to what Brady had up in New England, night and day. If Brady had these receivers that we had in New England, he never leaves out of New England. Let's be real about that, right? He was throwing in N'Keal Harry, who was struggling as a rookie, who had missed a good portion of the year. Remember, they had Josh Gordon. He ended up not coming back because of the whole mental health and the substance abuse stuff. So all those variables were there as well, right? Now, granted, we just said that the difference was he had, in terms of Brady, he had the receivers and running game issues. Whereas here in Pittsburgh, we had the receivers.
Hold on. My point is, I think his running game was way better. We were the last. I mean, I think their line was a little bit better too. Like we were bad, dude. And that's it. That's all I want to say.
You sure?
Yeah, that's it.
You sure? Because you said that a couple minutes ago too,
dude.
And then you said it before that too. You just let me know, man. Anytime we talk about Ben, you get defensive, bro.
Defense too was better, but
you see how defensive you get
at the end of the year.
Have you noticed this though, right? Whenever we talk about Ben, what do? You deflect. You're deflecting.
No, I'm
you
just
done
saying.
Said defense. You done talked about running game. You done talked about O-line. You point to everybody else.
No,
we can't acknowledge that he was struggling on the deep ball.
I said Ben played bad. I said Ben played not. I'm not going to say bad in total, but yeah, he had a bad game yesterday. Like
you got it, bro. I guess I didn't even care about the game yesterday. I'm talking about full body work this season.
But that's why I'm talking about why I think we could run it back with him and do good next year. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey man, to each his own, man.
Yeah, that's all.
You got it, bro. I ain't even messing with it.
All right.
Because every time I try to break it down, man, like I said, bro, you get real defensive about it, bro. Think about how many times I've just tried to say a point about the difference between the two, and you won't let that get out there, man. As soon as it looks like it's not going to be in favor for your guy.
Wait, what do you mean? But I don't know. I'm just making my point. I thought Brady needed help. That was it. And like I think their running game was better than our running game.
You think their running game was better than our running game? I think
ours was dead last.
Listen, all I say is this: was their running game compared to our running game? Was that gap the same as our receiving core?
I think Brady looked worse than Ben last year.
All right. You got it, bro.
I think he did.
You got it, bro. If you want to. I don't think so.
Okay.
I personally don't. I think Brady has never looked as bad as Ben looked on the deep ball accuracy this year. I think Ben on throws 30 yards or further this year was absolutely terrible. Wait a minute. No. That's the biggest thing. I think every time we had success on the explosive plays, we said, man, it was more so him just throwing it out there. And it wasn't a lot of pinpoint. It was more so just hoping and praying. And we can see the difference in certain games where one time he'll throw that ball and it's 5 yards inside. The other time he throws it, it's 5 yards outside. Like, he's just slinging it out there. It wasn't a lot of consistency with it, which was the biggest reason why people criticized him so much this year, which is why we had to resort to what? Quicker passing attack, short to underneath stuff. We said he was getting protected. He wasn't getting sacked. You said it yourself, 10 sacks for the whole year. So he had time, even though we talked about, oh man, it was 2 seconds. I got it, all that. But we did see when they wanted to take shots, they could protect him. Yesterday, as bad as it was, did he get sacked? Yeah, he had, I think, 4 QB hits yesterday on him. No sacks though. So he still was getting time. But to me, the thing is this. With Brady, we never called into question his accuracy. That's always been there. Even when he went to Tampa, it was there. For Ben, this year, from start to finish, not just yesterday, we're not even talking the interceptions. Just think about how many deep balls we saw him connect on. How many? It wasn't a lot. We had explosive plays, but it wasn't a lot of deep ball throws. Connecting on him. And that to me is the biggest difference. That's what separates him from Aaron Rodgers, from Drew Brees, from Tom Brady. Those guys are still connecting on those deeper passes. Whereas Ben, we talked about, it's not even a secret this year. That's why I was surprised. You're like, bro, what are we talking about here? He has not hit consistently on deep balls this season. And if you're going to pay a guy 41, or not even pay him, but if he's going to have a $41 million cap hit, you want him to be able to connect on deep balls consistently, not once in a blue moon and hoping and wishing and praying. That's all I'm saying, bro.
Yeah, but you're talking specifically about the deep balls. What if I'm saying like I think I could come back for maybe a multitude of reasons? You know,
that's the difference.
Not having the training camp, all that type of stuff, coming off the elbows.
Training camp, who cares about practice?
I'm just saying, dude. I mean, dude, your first season coming off all this stuff. I don't know. Maybe
he said it's the best he's ever felt.
But I don't know. Maybe in terms of like rhythm, whatever it is, dude. I just think for a multitude of reasons, I think he could come back.
It's the best he ever felt, though.
I think he could come back. Dude.
So he's gonna feel better than the best he ever felt.
He might.
He said it's the best he's ever felt.
He might, just because the rhythm's going to be back now.
Man, if anything, I'm like, can I get the old elbow that had the jankiness? Because he said he's been dealing with, he had discomfort throughout his whole time, or a long portion of his career, right? Well, to me, I like the accuracy better when he had the discomfort. With this quote unquote new arm, the accuracy downfield is not there consistently. So can I get the old one? Throw the little things back in there.
We'll see, man. And that's the thing. Is it going to come back? I do. I just think the talent and all that type of stuff's still there.
I guess
it's just it's just that little feel
this
thing.
Year. What did you see this year that makes you truly not just a feel thing? Like what did you see that was tangible?
Because I think the arm talent's legitimately there.
Okay,
that's my thing.
All right.
So it's like, could the rhythm come back because this is his first year back from all this stuff?
See, I think that's what
now he's gonna have the training camp. I guess that's what it is.
Because I don't think rhythm was the biggest issue for him. Like I said, for me, the downfield throws, that's the biggest issue, and that's what really forced them to play that short to intermediate passing attack and have to dink and dunk because he wasn't consistently hitting. And if he can't do that again, it's gonna look the exact same as it looked this year. So that's why for me, I'm like, I don't want to have a $41 million cap hit to have a rerun of what we just saw with 7. I don't want to see that. Not for 41. If it's at 35, if it's at 32, different. But 41, I don't want that for 41.
I'm just thinking a combination of that. If we can get the line right, we get a running game, dude. Like,
I mean, I'm hearing what you're saying. But I feel like those are all minor issues to the big issue. The big issue, we can't open it up. If we can't throw it consistently downfield, teams, you saw the second half of the year how teams played us, right? They said, man, we're not worried about you beating us deep. We're going to challenge you and make you have to run the ball, make you have to execute in this short to intermediate because we haven't seen you consistently beat us deep. We haven't seen that from you. That's how they play. A lot of, man, Cincinnati played us that way. Washington played us that way. Buffalo played us that way. We could go on a list of teams. That was the blueprint. So until we see that consistently change, I don't personally feel that it's going to be any different next year.
Sure. Like, if that would be a key thing to improve for sure. But I do think the line in the running game is a big part of that as well.
Hey, man, fair enough.
But I do think it could come back for sure. I definitely do. Because I have
my doubts. I don't think it's coming back.
Because I think the arm strength is there. And when I talk about rhythm, I'm just talking about getting back into the rhythm of things. Your first season back, now doing the training camp, all the off-season stuff. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe a timing thing with the receivers too. I don't know specifically. Like you could answer that.
I mean, you talk about the receivers. They had a good report. The timing didn't look off to me. I thought the drops from the receivers were the bigger issue. And that's a different conversation. And that's why I said it's not always just because Ben struggles on deep ball accuracy doesn't mean he's not still a good quarterback, still not a top 15 quarterback. I feel like he's still in there. I just don't feel like when you're talking about your elite guys right now, I need more consistency. I need more of it, and especially on the deeper ball throws. And we did not get that enough this year for him to be viewed in those top 5 categories right now. That's to me is the big thing. I understand you're going to feel different. You always say he's your number one guy, and I understand that. But as a whole, when I look at this thing objectively, that's what I see. When I watch him on tape, if I were to just take off the number, take off the name, if I just saw him on a random team, what would I think of him and his arm? What would I think of? And that's what I don't feel like people do when it comes to Ben, because obviously the nostalgia, obviously the fandom, obviously the love you have for him, it always reverts back. But if you literally just took off the uniform, took off everything that says Pittsburgh still is Ben Roethlisberger, and put him on the New York Jets, right? Or you put him on some just random team out in the blue, Detroit Lions, right? Nobody watches them. I don't feel like you would be speaking on him the way you are right now. I don't feel like you will be as optimistic about this deep ball accuracy coming back as you are for him. But because of that connection that you have, and a lot of people have here in Steeler Nation, because of everything he's accomplished, it's hard to not see it that way, because you remember the throws. You remember the toe tap, the tone time. You remember how many fourth quarter drives, the back-to-back 500-yard performances, this 5 and 6 touchdowns. We remember all of those things, and that takes over. But when it comes down to just simply evaluating them, if you strip all of that away and just put him, Stafford, Darnold, all these quarterbacks, and you couldn't tell who was who, right? Everybody just looks the exact same. You couldn't tell black, white, who's tall, who's not. You would not be saying that. You would not be as optimistic about him right now. And that's the point I'm always trying to get across to you, man.
But I think that's what people would have been saying about Brady last year.
And I don't think so. That's all I'm saying. I feel like Brady received the criticism because it was Brady and because New England was struggling. But then remember, it was still a time where the Brady comments went down when they started out hot. That didn't start hopping up until the end of the year. And then more so once they got beat in that last game to Miami and then lost in the wild card, then it really got magnified, right? We really started to hear about Brady and the arm and does he still have it? But prior to that, remember, it was at a point about midway through the year, up until that Baltimore game, realistically. Baltimore, when Baltimore ran them out of there, that's when we started to look at them a little bit differently. But prior to that, we weren't talking about Brady losing it. We were saying, man, the Patriots are the Patriots. They killing everybody again. Here they go, ring them up for another Super Bowl appearance. That's what we were all saying.
Well, that's what I think almost exactly happened this year, no?
Nah, man.
With 11-0, and then we falter a little bit. Then everyone's questioning Ben, and then it's really hitting home now.
No. I think this was the thing, right? Y'all said at 11-0 once we lost, people started questioning them. I've been talked about this. Most people have been talked about this. And you even came in here and said, you got mad with me and the cons, right? When she had the little analogy, and I said, bro, she's not wrong with the analogy. Just the name of the person that she used set people off. And where did you were mad, right? You had this big monologue, right? And anytime somebody says something, right? And I'll simply look at you, I'm like, bro, they're not lying though. It's just, we don't want to hear that. And then the rebuttal was always, what? We're 11-0. We're 11-0. Ben don't get sacked. Ben ain't throwing no picks. The best Ben has ever looked. What y'all talking about? And then once that rebuttal left and we started to have these tough conversations, it was a total different tune, man.
Well, my thing with her was, the accuracy wasn't there. I think it was. I don't think
she just talked about the deep ball.
No,
she didn't talk about any. I took it. Deep throws.
I took it from he couldn't throw deep anymore. Like he couldn't throw long ball
because she compared him to Ben Simmons, and we know Ben Simmons can't shoot threes. Like that's different. The analogy,
the accuracy has been spotty, right. Yes, but I think my main point is I still see the arm talent. So I'm just. It's one of those things. I think it could come back. I think that's really my point.
So what do you think about Sam Darnold? Because he has great arm talent. So do you think he can grow into a Hall of Famer quarterback? Because he has great arm talent. He can make every throw. He's very lively, young.
Well, what about him?
I'm just saying, no, because you keep saying like you see the arm talent in Ben, right? So you keep saying you see the arm talent, right? You see the arm talent. You see the arm talent, and you say I just think he can come back. I'm just asking you with Sam Darnold. He has great arm talent. Do you think he's going to be a great quarterback?
Are we talking about the accuracy?
I'm just saying in general, arm talent, because with Ben, right? Every time I bring up deep ball accuracy, what do you say? I just see the arm talent. I see the arm talent. I see him making these throws.
I saw a lot of good throws yesterday.
So I'm just asking with Sam Darnold, what's the difference?
I don't. What do you mean by that though?
I'm just saying, like as confident as you are with Ben, right?
Right.
Based on what you saw from him this year, you keep saying the arm talent, right? Overlook the deep ball accuracy issues, but the arm talent is what you keep bringing up. All I'm simply saying is Sam Darnold has great arm talent as well. So do you feel that he can grow into that same level of quarterback as Big Ben? I mean, because you're very optimistic that Ben is going to just magically wake up tomorrow and the deep ball accuracy is going to be there. So I'm just asking, is Sam Darnold magic going to wake up tomorrow and be a great quarterback because he has arm talent? Like,
I mean, he might if he's in the right situation. I don't know, man.
I don't see it either, man. It's cool.
What do you mean? With Darnold or Ben?
No, I'm higher on Darnold, not on Ben. I just don't see it coming back, bro. I don't. I think, man, short to intermediate stuff is fine. I think he can hit an occasional deep ball. That's fine. But an occasional deep ball and short to intermediate accuracy is Phillip Rivers. That's not Aaron Rodgers. That's not Breeze. That's not Brady. Are we viewing Ben as an elite quarterback or are you viewing him as a good quarterback? The difference is the pay. The $41 million cap hit is what separates.
I mean, there's no denial the cap hit, if you could bring that down somehow, helps the team in general. Correct.
That's the biggest thing. If the cap hit isn't there, yeah, you keep Ben on the roster. Ben is still a good quarterback. We're not saying he's not a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. I still think he should be the leader of this team, but only if that number is altered. Because for that number,
I don't know. Maybe
he's not there right now. I don't think he's getting back to that.
Yeah, maybe I just think that's a given somehow. I think it's just going to work out.
I could dig it.
That's
man.
what I'm thinking.
I could dig it, but that's kind of what I was alluding to, and also when I said, man, we're so accustomed to, we've seen them come back from crazy things, right? We've seen them come back from adversity, odds stacked up against them. And we're just like, yo, it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. For me, the only reason I don't feel like it will happen is because seeing the full body of work this year, it just showed up too much for me. That's my biggest thing, man. If it was a once or twice thing, if we're talking about turnovers, that's different. But when we're talking about just deep ball accuracy, you either have it or you don't. Like, I don't care about arm shit. Think about Josh Allen. People went crazy on Josh Allen for the first couple years. Crazy arm. It ain't got no accuracy, though. That ain't going to improve. People, man, as much as you believe in him there, but that's the thing. I'm like, if anything, people should have been more optimistic about him than Ben. I mean, he has a way livelier arm, way more arm talent, but people were quick to not even consider him. But with Ben, it's like the opposite. It's like, man, no, he can't not have deep ball accuracy. He can't. What? He's always elite. He's always top tier. I'm like, bro, throughout his career, sure. Yes, a large majority of that he was in that top bunch. No question. But at this stage, I feel like you're lying to yourself if you feel like he's there right now. That's just me from an objective standpoint.
Like I said, there's no denial the accuracy hasn't been there completely this year. That's the thing. Is it going to be back next year?
Yeah. You said you think he will. Yeah. I said I think he don't. Either way, that's for y'all to decide, though, baby. All right, that was a good one too. Jay, go on. How many questions have we got to so far? 3? 4? No, we're at 4. We got 4. All right, we're working through this thing. Shout out to y'all though, man. See, y'all bring this out of us, man. And yesterday's performance, it's one of those conversations you gotta have. We gotta have these type of conversations. Yeah. It's crazy. All right, now this one is from Justin Claypool. Shout out to Justin Claypool. Why the tale of two teams setting records, then playing games like yesterday on both sides of the ball? Honestly, to me, that's, been their MO this year. We've seen them look great at times. We've seen them look bad at times. We've seen them kind of squeak out of some games at times, right? When you have a team that can be really good at times and really bad at times, we typically like to say that they're not a great team. They're just a good team. And that's the difference, right? Good teams can have flashes of brilliance, right? They can have that Browns performance that we saw earlier in the year where we kind of ran them out. We can have a glimpse of that Tennessee Titans first half where we were running them out the building, right? But you get the inconsistencies as well, right? The second half of that Titans game. When we talk about some of those games during that the 1-5 end of the year, right? How you can just see how it fluctuates. And even when we were talking about the game yesterday, we said even with Ben, for example, it was like, man, at one point it looked great, one point it looked bad, one point it looked great, one point it looked bad. As a whole, when your team is up and down like that, that's just a good team. And they were a good team, but not a great team. And to win a Super Bowl, you have to be a great team. To advance in the playoffs, you have to be a great team. Right now, that's just not what we are. We started out hot, but even during that 11-game win streak, we talked about it up here. How some of these games we're squeaking on. We're like, well, hey, man, we don't really ask how, just ask how many wins you're getting. Like, it doesn't matter. We're not trying to get style points. Those are the things we would say to justify it, right? To make us feel better about it. But it was still showing up that, man, we weren't this juggernaut. We weren't just blowing teams out. We said, man, all right, this is a team that we should have won by 2 scores and we squeaked it out on a field goal, or it took something at the last second to happen for us. That's what happens with just good teams. Yeah, so that's to me was the biggest reason why we saw the performance that we saw from them and why yesterday looked how it did as a whole. that's who they are. They were just a good team, not a great team.
Dude, I whenever I tried to rewatch this, man, I was at the beginning. I'm thinking to myself,
sick.
Yesterday was just a bad dream. This snap isn't going over his head, right?
Bro,
and things get back to the normal game when
so sick.
When I'm rewatching this, and it just doesn't happen, man.
No. I was when I watched the interception, the last one to Taki, I was like, yo, it had to have been tipped. It was hit something, right? 'Cause I'm saying with you, I'm like, anytime you watch, I'm like, yo, it wasn't like that. And I was like, God, dog. And then the more I just look back, I was just like, man, this was one of those, it was the perfect storm in terms of the amount of adversity that the Steelers created for themselves and the Browns actually being able to capitalize on too. Like, to me, I've seen the snowball effect of multiple turnovers or things going bad, but typically the teams can't cash in every time, right? It was crazy that they literally cashed in on and not field goals. We're talking 7 points. Like, that's why I said for me, it like the perfect storm. As I'm watching it again, I'm just like, man, they literally, everything went perfect for them. And that was the difference in the game. 2, 3, and 4, those quarters, we owned them, man. Granted, and obviously in the fourth quarter, they had the two drives at the end.
And you can see we still had our limitations,
Yeah.
especially on defense, where you're like, all right, how are we going to match up with the Chiefs and Bills next week? But in terms of us versus the Browns, I still felt like we were the better team.
Yes, without a doubt. And that's the biggest thing. And that's what we said, man, the difference between your great teams are going to play up at a 9 or a 10 consistently. Your good teams, they'll give you a 9 or 10 for a couple of games. They're going to give you some 5 and 6s. You might even get a 7 and 8 in there. But you see how it fluctuates, and just depending on the matchup, the time of everything, you might squeak out of a 5 performance. We saw them do that against the Cowboys. You might squeak out of a 7 performance. We saw that against the Broncos when Jeff Driscoll came in. But eventually, man, you're going to play that 6 or that 5 opponent. You're going to play at a 6 or 5 level, and your opponent's going to be on a 7 or 8 or a 9. And now you're going to get caught. And it showed, man. But that's that inconsistency, those great performances and bad performances all in the same year, that's the sign of a good team, not a great team, man. And the only difference between a good team and a bad team is the good teams, you're still going to find ways to let your talent overcome some of those Jaguar teams, Cowboy teams, Broncos teams, where you're able to stack up those victories and keep it going. The bad teams, they're not able to squeak out of those. They're not able to get those tight wins. They lose in those close games, and that's why they are who they are. But ultimately, that's the scenario there, man, from my perspective at least.
Yeah.
Man, see, that was actually good, man. We shout out to you, Justin. That wasn't too long of a question right there. All right. Man, I feel like I didn't have this many questions until I just looked at how many questions I had. Maybe I was a little overzealous at the moment. I don't know. Jeez Louise. I just looked down. I said, Lord, how many questions we got left? Jeez. All right. Okay, so here we go right here. And this is from John. I'm going to butcher your last name. I'm going to do it. Maulmeister. Question. How long do you think our rebuild will be? Because we are basically in rebuild mode right now. John, in terms of how long a rebuild would take and if we're currently in rebuild mode, I don't think we're in rebuild mode. Knowing the Steelers, knowing Kevin Colbert, we listed some of the things, right? We said, is this going to be last dance or is it full rebuild? I think they're going to lean last dance. I personally do, man. I feel like if you're Colbert, if you're Coach Tom, and if you're Ben, you owe it to each other. You think about everything they've been able to overcome, right? The Super Bowls they've won, the adversity they've had, everything that they've done has got them to this point right here. And, going to have a ton of doubters, obviously, throughout the offseason. Obviously, when the season starts next year, it's going to be a lot of questions surrounding you. Man, for me, I'm not just ready to just blow it up and just say rebuild. Like I said, if you can get the contract part done with 7 the right way, man, you go last dance style, man, and you try to go out with a bang, because you are literally, we talked about a couple pieces, right? You got to get the O-line better, but I think because of how everything played out, they're going to be more prone to make some of those tougher decisions on the offensive line. Dotson is going to have to be in that lineup somehow, some way. We all agree upon that.
Draft the guy.
Yeah, but they're going to make moves up there. Running back is another one. They're definitely going to address that. I think you do both of those things, and if you run the table and you come up short next year, then you can go ahead and say, all right, Ben, we love you, but this is what we got to do. Cool, we gave you that last opportunity. Go ahead. This is how we're going to make this thing work. But if you just go full rebuild right now. I mean, think about what you're going to be wasting in terms of TJ Watt prime years, Cam Hayward, a couple years left on, in terms of quality years from him, Minka. I mean, it's a lot of pieces that you're going to be looking at potentially wasting a year or two or potentially longer. Listen, man, rebuild sounds cool on paper until you're a part of a rebuild and it doesn't work in 2 years. It doesn't work in 5 years. And you become the Jets. You become the Bills before Josh Allen and all those guys, where you spend 20 years of suffering. You become the Browns when you talk about full rebuilds. How many rebuilds have the Browns been a part of? Organizational rebuilds as well. As easy as it sounds on paper to go rebuild, not everybody wants to stomach rebuild. Not everybody, in terms of players, and every player wants to be a part of a rebuild either. So I just don't, I mean, you saw what was going on in Philly, right? It started flirting with a little, are y'all trying to rebuild? What are y'all doing at the end of the year when they make the moves they made? And obviously they fired Doug Peterson. Now, I don't think that was right, but they still did it. So you can just see like everything that plays off of that, man. So for me, man, I'm not ready to go rebuild yet. Like I said, you talk to Ben if he wants to come back, which I mean, we both feel like he does want to come back. You make the numbers work, and from there you go last dance. But yeah, I'm not ready for rebuild, man. Because rebuild, it's no time limit, man. I've seen some work worse, like the Cardinals, for example, right? It took them pretty much 2 years in terms of they brought in Steve Wilkes, didn't work out. Cliff Kingsbury comes in first year. Success, but then this third year they should have been in the playoffs. Obviously they faltered at the end, but they had every opportunity to be there. So to me, that's a successful rebuild, right? They have made themselves contenders in the NFC. They've done that successfully. Now they're going to be competing for that division title for the next couple of years. That worked out for them. Then we said we could point to the Jets and how that didn't work out. We can point to the Jaguars and how that didn't work out, right? They tried to rebuild. Once they got rid of Bortles, they brought in Nick Foles, didn't work. And then from there, it was like, okay, we'll go with Gardner Minshew. Obviously, that hasn't worked to the full extent they would have liked it to work. So you can just see when it comes to rebuilding, man, it's a crapshoot. There is no guarantee that that's going to be a next year or next 5 years. So that's why I'm like, man, if the numbers work, you roll with it. You got to roll with it because that can be very, very rough.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think you do bring it back. I think it actually makes sense for both scenarios in a way. Mm-hmm. Where like, yo, let's run it back. Let's see if we can do this. If things work out, then you can maybe get Ben on some type of Brady or Breeze deal for like absolutely. $25 million a year, $20 million a year. Or if like maybe he wants to retire after that, that's when you could be bringing in your, whether it's Mason or you draft a guy, but then you still have all those young pieces still. So that's what I mean. I think it works. I think it works on both cases there.
Yeah. And like I said, the biggest thing is going to be how they handle the contract.
Especially with hopefully the defense getting healthy again, man. Like,
because you got to think Devin Bush for the second half of the season wasn't out there. So him coming back, that's going to be
I think that was a big part of yesterday's game. Yeah. Like you could do that. The running backs went off against us.
They did, man.
Completely went off. And maybe if Devin Bush is in there, it's a different story.
But I will just quick laugh. When we found out that Spillane was going to be up along with Vince and Avery Williamson, everyone looked at that as that's going to be the strength of this defense. That's going to be the reason why. I even highlighted it in terms of my keys. You saw how it changed. It was the exact opposite. But it was just funny now all of a sudden it's like, yo, man, if Devin Bush, man, maybe he's the difference. We need him back out there.
That's what I'm saying.
But think about this, man. 2 weeks ago before Spillane went down, we were like, man, maybe Devin Bush isn't going to get his job back because Spillane is balling out. And then it was like, oh, you brought in Avery.
We never said this.
We never said it, but it was a good amount of people that did say those things. Trust me, we see them. We see them. But yeah, it was a good amount of them that did talk about that in terms of, man, maybe Spillane does need to be the starter going forward because of how productive he was.
I think he's earned a spot on an NFL team for sure.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's just funny, man, when you have a performance like last night, how we look at that group right now compared to 2 weeks ago, how we looked at that group. You know, it's such is life in the NFL, man.
And that was their main thing, dude. Like they're a good team in general, but man, when you add that with the best running back tandem and they're able to do that type of stuff against us.
But what was our thing though all year, even when Devin Bush went down?
I know, stopping the run.
We were elite run defense stop, right?
I know, but that was the thing when you don't have the defensive line. Great in terms
of tackles for loss. And we had, think about in our front seven, who was missing from the original group?
You're right.
Just Bud. That was it. Obviously, because Devin Bush has been out for a while now. Obviously, Bud is a lot fresher than Devin. So that's why for me, I'm like, we can go the Bud excuse, but Devin's been gone. And Spillane came in and was a rock star. We traded for Avery Williamson. Avery Williamson is a high pedigree guy in terms of multiple contracts, have had success. And then we already knew what Vince was. Vince has been, man, dominant in terms of tackles for loss and blitzing the quarterback. So you had that gamut last night. You had everybody minus Bud, but you had Alex Highsmith for at least the first half, who had been starting for the past couple of weeks. And they literally just, I mean, it was bad, really bad. But that's the funny part, man. When you talk about every game you play is your living, breathing resume. If this game doesn't happen, we're not sitting here talking about Devin Bush coming back being the difference for that defense, that linebacking core. We're talking about, man, we are stacked at inside linebacker. Man, we got all of these guys and he's coming back. Not, man, we need him to come back. Lord, he might need to save us because this is bad. It's just funny, man, how quick it can change. But that's football. That's sports, man. And that's the reality of it. But they put themselves in that position. When you put bad stuff on tape, these are the conversations that get had, man. Right, wrong, or indifferent. It just is what it is, man.
Sure.
All right. Now I feel like we got a groove now.
All right.
We're getting a groove here. All right. Do I see the? God, I thought I saw the finish line. Maybe I should cut this down.
What do you mean?
I got a lot of these questions still, bro. I thought I had less questions.
How many is there any you think we could use just for like next week that are maybe more general off-season stuff as opposed to game specific?
Nah, some of this stuff was very much game specific. But you know what? I got 2 questions that we'll get up out of here.
Okay.
We got 2. Okay. All right.
You just one at me.
Yes, this is definitely at you.
Let's hear it.
This is from Jake Bolt. And he says, question for Deke. And he has for Deke in all caps.
All right.
We know you say until the wheels fall off with Ben. His question to you is, have the wheels fallen off?
I really don't think so. Like I said, I think you can question decision making. You could say, he played a bad game, or like I don't know. I think I said bad game earlier. There was good mixed in with the bad yesterday, like kind of like what we talked about. But no, I don't know. I still think the arm strength is there. I think the talent's still there. My thing is the offensive line. I do. I feel like if we could revamp this offensive line, we could get a running game going. I really think it could be a different story. That's my thing. I don't think the wheels have fallen off. I still think Ben has stuff in the tank.
Well, that's your answer right there, baby. Boom. I like it. Shout out to you for the answer too, man. All right. You ready for this last one?
Sure.
All right. I'm about to butcher this dude's name. We got Amos Kasul. I think I said that right. Amos Kasul. Who's to blame for how the Steelers season ended these past few weeks? In terms of the 1-5 ending of the year, that's obviously including the wild card performance.
You want to go first?
Nah, I was gonna let you go, man. You should get. You want to get it?
It's so easy just to try to blame one person. I don't think that's it, man. I think it was a lot of things. Like our defense was really banged up there, not having Joe Hayden, not having Bush, Bud Dupree, and like you said, it is funny we bring these guys up now who haven't really. In terms of Dupree and Bush.
When did Bush go down? That was...
week 4 or 5.
Right, and then...
But dude, we have these, 49s out there. We have too many 40s out there that I have no clue have played on the roster at all yesterday.
Cassius literally just got added to the roster, I think, 3 weeks ago, I want to say. It was going into... It was around Cincinnati time frame. He got put on the practice squad, and then from there, they activated him. It was maybe the last 1 or 2 games of the year. But obviously, he would only get like a sprinkle of defense, more so, like I said, special teams. But Highsmith going down was what really forced their hand and made them have to do that, man.
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of that, the defense wearing down, Ben making bad decisions, kind of, the offensive line playing bad, no running game. Yeah. Some drops, and then I don't know if you want to question Tomlin at all. Maybe because he's the leader, but I don't think any of that deserves the knee jerk reaction of blame this one person, get rid of this person, complete rebuild after one game. So I don't know. I think it's all that kind of stuff into play.
Yeah, I agree, man. It was. You hear Coach Tomlin talk about the popcorn, right? It's always popcorn. It's not just one person. It's not just one issue. For me, I do think a couple of variables played into it. And I'm just going to speak from a whole season standpoint. I do think the excitement of going 11-0, along with the pressure of going 11-0, I do think that weighed on them a little bit in terms of the goal becoming, we got to go 16-0, we got to remain perfect. I do think that played a bit in this, especially towards the end of it. Also that little span, man, where we talked about the 3 games of 12 days and just the fluctuating of scheduling, the fluctuating of everything, I thought that threw their rhythm off as well. You hit on a lot of the personnel stuff already, man, in terms of just the X's and O's element of it. But then also from a coaching staff standpoint, granted, I always come up here and I always say, man, it's hard to put it all on Randy Fichtner because Ben has full autonomy when it comes to the offense. He checks whenever he wants. So if the play doesn't work, it's more so on him, less than the coordinator who calls in multiple plays to him to let him call. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same. But I still feel like a portion of the blame does go on Randy Fichtner. No different how we looked at that Bills offense. And the reason why I bring them up is because they're kind of like the new exciting thing, right? Kansas City, we know who they are. But in terms of the young coordinator up there and Brian Daboll, and then obviously Josh Allen, how just creative they were with some of these plays that they would do, we never saw creativity, consistency. We saw sprinkles of, right? That Philly game, man, we saw creativity that we hadn't seen all year, and it was exciting. But we never got a chance to see a lot more consistency and innovativeness working out. Outside of that, I mean, the Cleveland game was probably the next time we really saw some type of creativity when they introduced the zone read stuff with Dobbs. But outside of that, we didn't see a lot of creativity. So even though Ben is in control of what plays they're going to actually run, these plays are still designed by Randy Fichtner. And that's the part that falls on him. And that was the part we always, when we would talk about who deserves the blame between the two, we said both of them deserve it. And I feel like it's equal because Ben still can check in and out of whatever he wants to, but these are all designed by Fichtner.
The base of it.
Right. And we never saw crazy concepts to help them run the ball. We never saw crazy concepts to help them when Ben was struggling a little bit, right? When the receivers were struggling with their catches, we never saw them, have an answer, have an adjustment. It was still just the same thing. Let's just throw it up and hope for the best. I feel like when you have a top tier coordinator or somebody who, you think about how Coach Tom, he specializes in defense, right? So at times that the defense is struggling, he's able to make adjustments on the fly to fix it. We never saw any of that stuff happen with Randy Fichtner. The adjustments that we would see was more so, all right, Ben just starts to play hero ball. He can make these plays and it works out. But it wasn't, man, that's an adjustment. We can see it tangible. It's an adjustment. Outside of a difference of tempo, we never saw mass changes of anything like that. So a lot of that does fall on Randy, and that's why he's going to be harshly criticized, and rightfully so. But in terms of, like I said, man, everything that transpired, it was all of that. And then at the end, obviously Coach Thomas, he has to take a good amount of this because he's the captain of the ship. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I understand that he doesn't go out there and play on the field, but he gets those guys ready to play. He's the one who coaches them up. He gets them in terms of skill development. When I see Cassius Marsh out there not be able to set an edge, that is a coach issue because you have seen him in practice. You have evaluated this guy. So for you to put him out there, him not be able to stand up consistently and set an edge of a defense, that's not on that player anymore. Because that player isn't putting himself in that game. You could have put Ola Adeniyi out there, or you could have done what they did do eventually, which was go to a big nickel, where essentially you're going to have Cam Hayward play out there on the edge and set the edge. And we've seen them do that before. Obviously, when they play Baltimore, they'll have Cam playing a true DN. Problem is, when you do that, what you're going to get from coverage, you're going to get Spillane matched up on Jarvis Landry. You're going to get TJ walked out on some of these receivers. So it's a gift and a curse with it. But for me, when I see a guy not being able to set the edge, and we know as an outside linebacker, man, the two things that Coach Tomlin wants from you and will absolutely demand, number one, you set an edge on his defense, and number two, you rush this passer like a madman. It's that simple. You can play if you do those two things, but not being able to set an edge, that's elementary. That's if this is my first day coaching you, or you're my outside linebacker, I don't care about anything else. Once I teach you your stance and the call, you better be able to set this edge. I don't care how great of a pass rusher you are. If you can't set this edge, you're not seeing this field. So the fact that he was out there and you knew he was going to struggle like that, that falls on coaching. Some of the personal decisions, that falls on coaching. So that's why when we say it's multiple people, and I feel like multiple people holding a heavy burden of that blame, it's because of stuff like that. Personnel, yeah, we got on you, like I said, you hit on the personnel people. You hit on the drops in the field stuff, but some of the decision making that went along with that to me, that you can't do that, man. You can't. And it's not like they didn't have options. You had options, but you saw, and we saw what it looked like when it happened, man. They got out physical. That was rough. It was rough to watch, man. Very rough to watch.
So they were saying, from what I looked up, Finkner's contract is up after this season.
Yes.
What's the deal with the DC?
With Butler, well, all the coordinators they should alternate because they only sign 1 or 2 year deals max.
Okay.
So if Finkner is up this year, then Butts might be up next year, just depending on when they signed it. Because obviously, remember, for Finkner, he got his promotion to OC later than Butts. So I don't know just how that range was going. And obviously, when I say Butts, I'm talking about Keith Butler, the DC. We just call him Butts, his nickname. But in terms of his contract is different because remember, he was already employed as a linebackers coach for a while and was on longer term deals as a position coach, which you typically don't see at this level. So that's why in terms of, I don't know how much is left on his deal, but with Randy, they always, with position coach, they typically like to stay in 1 to 2 year deals max. So you got flexibility. If, he wants to get a job as a head coach somewhere, this is hypothetically, not saying that he's going to, but just in general, the reason you do the shorter deals is because, hey, this guy might want to bump up and take a job somewhere else. Well, we don't have to worry about the buyouts and everything that goes along that nature. Man, okay, as the head coach, I might not like what I saw from you. I might want to go a different direction. If I fire you, man, it's going to create media, right? We got to answer those things. People are going to criticize it. I don't have to fire if it's a 1 year deal. I just don't have to re-sign you. That's what happened with Joey Porter, right? People say, oh, he was fired. Technically, he wasn't fired. They just simply said, well, hey, man, it's a 1 year deal. We don't have to re-sign you. We're just going to let you go, and we're going to go and work on it that way. So that's how you put that safe bet in. That's why you always hear the Steelers talking about, whoa, man, we don't fire coaches. We don't fire a lot of coaches here. I mean, let's be real. How many coaches have they fired? Think about how, I mean,
from my memory, I can't remember.
I think it was a special teams coach in 2010. It was either 2010 or 11. They ended up getting fired. And the only reason I know is this. Because it was the year we played Pittsburgh in Buffalo, Stevie, the overtime drop, everything. But going into the game, the special teams coach had got fired because they say he was apparently had a drinking issue or something. I don't know him personally, but that's what the media has said and things like that. And ultimately why he ended up getting fired. Other than that, and I remember them saying, man, he's the first coach that got fired in so many years. I was like, yo, this is crazy compared to Buffalo where, we firing coaches left and right. It's like, man, you get fired. I'm like, what do you mean y'all don't fire coaches? That's not a thing. It's the first day after the game over. Yeah, everybody clean out the locker room. Every coach is fired. That's not normal here. But Pittsburgh, that's how they alternate. So that's why with Butler, I'm not sure 100% how much he has left. But with Finkner, that's the whole purpose of him having that. Whereas now, if they wanted to just smoothly transition to Matt Canada as the guy, right? Or if they wanted to go out there and bring in another OC, a higher profile guy, you can do that without it being messy. You can do it without it ruffling feathers and looking bad for the brand of the Steeler way.
Okay, got you. Did you want to play off that, or do you want to wrap it up?
That's up to you, man.
So I was gonna say, do you bring Finkner back? That's what's the options? Who would you look at?
This is the issue. Finkner. If he doesn't come back and Ben does Ben want to come back and have to play under a new OC?
Bring back Haley.
Well, this is the thing, right? In terms of Haley was good here. We loved him here. The problem wasn't Haley. We know what the problem was. Him and Ben didn't mesh. So it wasn't like the offense was broke under Haley. What did we criticize for Haley? We would say, man, he was too innovative, right?
I think there were some screens I didn't like. Wide receiver screens.
That and then they would say, man, instead of a 3rd-and-1 run, we're playing beyond the sticks. And we would hit on a lot of them, right? How many bombs we saw, but people didn't like that consistently because it makes your stomach hurt. You gotta, hey man, you only need 1 yard. Why are you taking a shot downfield? When it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it's kind of like how you view trick plays, right? All right, as long as it's going good, I'm with it. So that was the thing with Haley that people, it made them sick. They couldn't take the ups and downs. Us as players, we got accustomed to it, which is why when I watch games, I'm like, I've seen worse. Trust me. Don't worry about it. Have you seen 4th and 1? We take a 60-yard bomb? I have. It's nuts. Wait till it works. So that's the only thing with Haley, right? But when you're talking about Ben, he's going to be another year older, right? And we're talking about potentially this being the last go around, right? Because the conversation we're having surrounding it, is he done this year? Does he come back for another year? Does he come back for multiple years? What they're going to have to decide, though, is this. Does Ben want to come back to play for a new coordinator? Play for somebody potentially that they might hire from outside the organization as well? Because think all his coordinators for the past couple of years have been promoted from within. These are guys he's been around. He's already known these guys. Now it's
what, Canada then maybe,
right? So that's what I'm thinking. If you're gonna do it, then it would need to be Canada to make sure that Ben is fine. But I don't know Ben and Canada's relationship because this was Canada's first year. And let's be real, Canada's the QB coach. It was job by title. I mean, is he really coaching 7? Like that's the thing. You know what I mean? As much as we talked about it, it's like, bro, he's not. I mean, now Canada, I will say this. He must have did something good with Mason Rudolph because Mason looked great. Mason came in and played well, but we know 7 doesn't need a quarterback coach. Before Canada was the coach, it was Randy Fichtner. So as much as we get on Randy Fichtner was a part of Ben's better years. So, I mean, it's depending on how you want to view it, man. Under Todd Haley as well.
Well, remember how you brought up that cord cutting situation last year? There was some rumors floating around about that this year, I think, for the Colts game, where it was where obviously, I guess Ben and his response kind of squashes that because he was like, "Oh, Fichtner was a part of that Colts second half." Yeah. But there were some rumors like, "Oh, that Colts second half, they shut off Fichtner's mic and it was just Ben and Canada going." Ben
operated, yeah. So it just depends on how people, it's a lot that's gonna go into that. But if it's me, and the problem is this: the OCs that I would want, they're not going to be available. The OCs I want are going to be head coaches.
Okay,
Bieniemy, Dable. Dude, like, you see what their offenses look like. I mean, not even just having young, talented quarterbacks, just some of their designs, the timing of it. Man, I saw one play in that Bills-Colts game where literally just from start to finish, they ended up scoring. It was the play where Josh scrambles to the right and he ends up just flicking the ball over the top. Now, granted, people said, well, man, was that just a run? And he just kind of flicked it out there. My thing is, if it was a run, why would Dawson Knox be in the end zone? Why wouldn't he be blocking? So I don't think it was a run. I do think it was designed that way. It just kind of executed a little funky at the end of it. But the thing that I love was this. When they came out, they first give you the illusion that, okay, we're hurrying, right? So they hurry up to the line. Then from there, you see them do what? Okay, we're going to shift. So we started out with our formation to the right side. We bring the tight ends. We reshift everybody to the left. All right, now we got everybody over here to the left. Hurry. Then it was, all right, we're going to motion to the right. All right, motion has got to the right. Hurry. And then it's like, I'm still looking this way to the left. We snap the ball. Everybody goes left. Tight end leaks out to the backside. Josh rolls out to the right side, throws the ball to the touchdown. And that's why when they were like, man, I think that was a run play. He just flicked. I'm like, everything that I saw looked like that was designed that way because of the misdirection. And it's things like that where the play itself wasn't anything crazy, right? It was just no different than a tight end drag and a rollout. It was no different. But how you got to it was what made it special. How you get to it. These guys, in terms of the elite coordinators, they don't just line up in it. They build it. Because as a defense, if you build your formation, if you build what you're trying to get to, I have to adjust 2, 3, sometimes 4 times. Compared to if you just line up and you just say, oh, he's running right here to the corner of the end zone. Josh's going to roll out. All right, I'm about to stop this. This is easy. We don't see that. We're not seeing enough innovativeness. We're not seeing enough of just them being creative with this offense. And that's the coordinators. That's why we talk about Fichtner. That's why we talk about Canada. And why we're potentially talking about replacing those guys. But also why we highlight those 2 guys that I just named in terms of, like I said, Dable up in Buffalo and then Bieniemy, because we've seen that creativity. We see how, man, you could take a basic run play, but the way they dress it up, it makes it work a lot more than if we do how we do it. We're just like, all right, get in the gun. All right, you motion over here. Stop the ball. You pull. We're going right there. Stop us. It's like, okay. He used to hit hard. He don't hit hard like that no more. I mean, he still is good, but he ain't hitting the same way no more. So it changes things,
Yeah.
And that's the difference right now, man. So I would love for any of those dudes, like I said, the 2 guys that I named, if they were available, but I think both of those guys are going to be head coaches next year, man.
Okay.
Yeah. But Canada could be the guy.
That's my thing. What does that leave then?
But the question too is this: how do you feel about Canada? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know much about him. Like, do you think he can bring that innovative element?
So this is my issue, right? I hear it depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to Randy Fichtner doubters, then Canada is the next best thing. You want Canada. He's the guy that can take over. He's one of those guys you say you groom him young and he becomes a head coaching candidate, right? Because right now, when you look at our coaching staff, not a lot of young talent, not a lot of coaches that you're saying, oh, this guy could be a head coach in the next 2 years. Like, we don't see a lot of that with our coaching staff right now.
When's that happen?
Exactly. Think about it, right?
Because we brought Haley from, I don't know if he was an OC at the time, but he was obviously a former head coach.
No, he was the head coach in Kansas City that year.
Okay, he was. Yeah. So then he came, came to us. And then... Who Wisenhunt back with Cowher? That's the last one.
Yeah.
He went out to AZ.
Yeah.
He was the OC here. I mean,
yeah, you see what I mean?
it's
So
been a
like, where
minute.
some of these other coaches, like, think about the Sean McVay coaching tree or the Andy Reid coach. How many guys under them are just constantly getting opportunities, right?
because LeBeau was
Yeah.
like the staple DC,
Yes.
and then he went to, I don't know what he was, it became an advisor or
Yeah, in
something with
Tennessee,
Titans.
he was. I know the 1 year, I think his first year, he was defensive advisor, but he still kind of operated as a coordinator. You watched them on tape; they were running the exact same defense we were running, but yeah, they just worded it different. It was more so a title thing, but yeah, we don't have a lot of coaches on our staff
So, like,
that just go places and
There's
become head
people
guys.
that say Canada could be that type of guy.
Right, because he's young, because he's innovative, right? We saw little glimpses of that. But like I said, that's if you're talking to people that view Randy and want to just get him out of here. Now, if you ask people that are Pitt fans, because remember, Matt Canada used to be at Pitt,
Yeah.
it's a different tune. Not everybody is as high on him there. Now, they do say that...
I wish I watched more to know. I have no clue.
Now, they did say that under him, the offense was productive. I want to say James Conner had one of his better years under him as well. It wasn't Pickett. It was the other quarterback, Peterson. Yeah,
Dude,
Peterman.
he was
Yeah.
actually good in college.
Yeah, so they were saying that even he had some of his better years under him as well. But still, people like how we're viewing him or how at the NFL level people are talking about him, the people that I've heard from collegially, they don't speak on him that way. They think it's a little bit different. So that's why I said it depends on who you're talking to. I don't know him enough. I never watched Pitt football like that when he was there. So I can't speak on it. I'm just, like I said, secondhand information, but from people that I really value in terms of their opinions. So that's the difference. But I haven't seen him to that standpoint. And to make that type of move to say that we're going to fire this guy and make him the OC, if this is Ben's last year coming up, that's a bold move, man. That's a bold move. So that's my only thing.
Yeah, because I mean, it goes back to what I said. Like, who do you bring in then? Like, what are the options? You brought up your two candidates, but you think they're going to be head coaches?
Yeah. So I said, for me, I'm saying you got to go in-house. I think Matt Canada would be the guy by default. They just promote within, keeps Ben happy. And then after Ben retires or whatever the contract situation plays out, then I think they go out there and really do their whole job search. Let's go bring a guy, because by then I also think that within the next 3 years, I don't think Kevin Colbert will still be here. I feel like he'll be retired by then. He's already flirted with you. We've already seen how he's changed the structure of his contracts to only 1 year deals now. Similar situation with Coach Tomlin as well. I just think when we're talking about that 3 year window, it could be a lot of changes going on. So just depends on when they want to go about that. I don't think they'll do any of that, though, if Ben is coming back. If Ben says he's not coming back, then yeah, I think you could see them be aggressive and go outsource and find an OC. But if Ben's coming back, I don't see them doing that solely based on it being that last year or for you, 2 years, right? 3 years time frame, just depending on how you count it. To me, I think they're going to handle it though, man.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Is that it?
I feel like, dude, that's a long time. We was grinding today.
Yeah.
We were grinding today.
That was a good one. Yeah.
That was. And we didn't get all the questions. We got a lot of them, though.
Yeah.
That was fun, though. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed the group therapy session. I hope that we have been pleasant to your ears and to your eyes. Shout out to all the subscribers out there. Shout out to everybody that's been on this journey with us throughout the 2020-2021 Pittsburgh Steelers season.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing ride, man. The support has been awesome. Y'all have made this fun. We can't wait to do it with you guys next year come season time. But just a quick update, we are still going to be recording. We're still going to be putting out content. So don't worry, we're not going anywhere. We're just giving you the farewell to the Steelers 2020-21 season. So with that being said, man, we are signing off. Oh, and yeah, anybody that's hooking us up, showing love for the podcast and the shirts. And like I said, the Pittsburgh local food bank, man, anybody's doing that, we greatly appreciate y'all. So until next time, baby.
Peace.